Morning, councillors, staff, and anybody that's watching on live stream. I'd like to welcome you to our Infrastructure Standing Committee meeting for the month of May. And to start with, we leave of absence. We have an apology received from the Mayor Otto, and I move that be accepted, that a leave of absence be granted. Someone want to second that? Councillor Duff, all in favour? Thank you, unanimous. Recognition of our traditional owners. We'll hand over now to Councillor Duff, the portfolio holder for Indigenous Affairs. Councillor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I'd like to acknowledge country and the land where we meet this morning, the Waka Waka land, and acknowledge the elders, both past, present and emerging. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. Declaration of interest, councillors. If you have the agenda there in front of you, is there any declaration of interest before we start? No, all good. Excellent. All right, we'll move straight into item 5.1, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, that the minutes of the Infrastructure Standing Committee meeting held on the 7th of April 2021 be received. I'd like to move I can move that, Mr CEO, as a portfolio, yes? Yeah, I'll move that be true and correct and accepted. Someone want to second that? Councillor Henson, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. What are we on to? Okay, it gives me great pleasure to present the Port Roads and Drainage portfolio for the month of May. So at the moment, we have our capital works. The following are current and planned works for April and May, so they'll be continuing out of April into this month. Our capital works program: Alfred Street, Kingaroy, curb and channel upgrade. Bramston Street, Wandai, curb and channel also, that upgrade there. Boyee Road, Wheatlands, widen, seal and overlay between Flats Road and Mondule Wheatlands Road. That should go through and hopefully be completed in June. Cobb Street, Mergen, curb and channel upgrade. Gibbs Street, Nanango, another curb and channel. Hayley Street, Kingaroy, construct a footpath from Jarrah Street to Fisher Street. Kingaroy Transformation Project, the Kingaroy CBD upgrade, that will continue obviously right through until October 22. Mergen CBD footpath upgrade, Lamb Street, Mergen stages 2 and 3. That also should be completed at the end of this month in May. So that's good news. That's been a long project and has made a significant difference to the town of Mergen. Nanango Butter Factory upgrade to the car park facilities. That's the last stage of the upgrade to the play equipment and all that sort of stuff that Councillor Froloh's led. So that's nearing completion. So well done there. Niagara Road, Boyneside, rehabilitation of existing seal and drainage construction. Final bitumen seal scheduled for May. And again, that excluding any additional drainage repairs, we hope to finish that in June 21. Roy Emerson Car Park in Blackbutt, the upgrade of the car park facilities there. I was speaking to the project manager yesterday and they're getting underway this week, I believe, and hope to have it finished in a couple of weeks. Rural Road, Nanango, upgrade to bitumen seal standard. That's well underway and that will make a significant difference to that area there. Youngman Street, Kingaroy, construct a footpath from Avoca Street to Oliver Bond Street. Blackbutt pedestrian bridge replacement, replace timber bridge across to Romeo Creek, prefabricated bridge ordered, and that hopes to be started in the next week or so and completed by the end of May, early June. Nanango pedestrian bridge replacement also. This is another replaced timber bridge near the Nanango State School, prefabricated bridge ordered and completed in June. Our gravel resheeting and heavy formation, Chinchilla Wandai Road, shoulder resheeting at various locations. That will continue through the month of May. Grindstone School Road, also a gravel resheet, also continuing through the whole month of May. Our patrol grading locations at the moment, there's a long list of patrol grading there. We go Brooklands, Charleston, Cloyna, Corndale, Mannion, Memarambi, Nanango, Windra, Warrulan, and roadside slashing and boom mowing. Another long list of the slashes. They have slowed down a little bit and starting to catch up on that process. We go Belogie, Bonaire, Benarkin, Blackbutt, Bowie, Boyneside, Bunya Mountains, Gordon Brook, Iron Pot, Kingaroy, Manium, all the way to Romeo, Teelar and Wandai. Our completed works for noting from the 19th of March 2021, our capital works program, we done Hancock's Road, gravel resheet, Kingaroy Barkers Creek Road, shoulder resheet, Kingaroy Burrendown, gravel resheet, heavy and medium formation grade, Maidenwell Upper Yarraman Road, gravel resheet, Nollas Road, gravel resheet. Our patrol grading, again, we have a long list there that we've continued through from Barlil, Bowie, Brooklands, Mannion, Melwood, Moffatdale, Moondoona, Mergen, South Nanango, Sunny Nook and Tablelands. Our roadside slashing that's been completed, we've been Barkers Creek Flat, Bowie, Boondoomba, Coolabunya, Corndale, Geelong, Kingaroy South and South Nanango. Our nighttime pressure clean that is, you can see there in the program, that was the trial, I believe, that we done over in Mergen, that Councillor Duff put a lot of work into organising and bringing some machines up to give us a demonstration on what we could possibly do across our region in the upgrades to the town centre. So I believe that that was a very successful process. So there we go. I'd like to move that the roads and drainage portfolio report be accepted for the month of May. Oh, thank you. Someone to second that? Councillor Shoemaker. Any questions? Councillor Henson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Could I just direct a question at General Manager Meehan in relation to the Niagara Bourneside Road? I know there was exceptional damage done there in the storms early in the year, and I'm happy to take it on notice, but excluding the additional drainage repairs, is there any idea of an expected time frame on that?
Sorry, in terms of the completion of the project?
Yeah.
Yep. So the final seal is expected to go on. We've completed about half of the seal. We had some wet weather, so that final seal will be done this month. There are some minor repairs that we do need to go back and particularly some scouring, and there's some discussion happening with regards to the reinforced concrete culverts, some cracking and so forth. So we're currently looking at some remedies for the actual culverts. So that may be quite some time onwards. But essentially, the majority of the project will be complete this month.
Yeah, thank you. That was just a question that was directed at myself and with some of the locals out there as to what was happening with the additional drainage repairs, which, as we know, there was some serious damage done out there in storms early in the project. So thanks for that.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other questions, Councillor Duff?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Yeah, just want to flag, I went to Nanango with Councillor Froloff, and that butter factory park is just fantastic. And just to have that car park done, just finish it off very nicely. I just want to also say that the Mergen footpath is fantastic. It's clean, and that cleaning was actually done by contractors, but we did actually also get the demonstration done, and yeah, the business community saw the demonstration and just said that the both machines, the one that did the cleaning and also the one that took all the leaves out, just they were so impressed with that. So hopefully we can look at that as a capital budget item. I also just wanted to say about that, we had the Anzac Day service, and the new area around the monument was sensational, and there's two new beautiful seats, and the shadows shine lest we forget. It's just wonderful, just beautiful. So thank you to the infrastructure team for that project. It's just yeah, couldn't be better, so thank you. And the other one I just wanted to flag, and James was at the meeting yesterday with between Cherbourg and Mergen, the footpath. And after we went offline, the Cherbourg mayor and CEO and finance officer asked me what was happening with the Cherbourg Road. And there's an expectation that in our budget that we're going to do something with that piece, our end of Cherbourg Road. So I just wanted to flag that because I'm not aware of that's been sort of earmarked, but I just want to flag that they do expect something forthcoming in our budget. So thank you.
Yeah, through you, through the chair. Yeah, thanks very much for those comments, Council. We'll pass them on to the team, particularly I think the Anzac Memorial. The guys did a great job. The whole team did. So, just in relation to Sherburg Road, we've marked that up for a possible reseal. So, Zala sent me an email the other week just requesting that we consider that in our program for next year. So, Cody and Kevin, the team, will have a look at that and see if there's a possibility that we can add that to our program next year as part of the border reseal program to fix the surface up a bit better, which will reduce their potholes. That's pretty well what the
Through Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yeah, no, I said that I was hoping we'd get it in the resale program, but they were actually hoping for like they think it needs total reconstruction. So that was just what they flagged, like
Sure.
they said cut it back and whatever. And they were talking $400,000 project. So I don't know where that's come from, but that was what was flagged.
No worries. We'll have a look at it and then just assess it and see where it comes to. And happy to have a chat with Zala about what some options are. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. You know how much I value our footpath crew and my particular interest in footpaths across the South Burnett, but particularly here in Kingaroy. I just wanted to know, and I know you have explained it to me, but just for the benefit of the community, the additional footpaths in Kingaroy why do we construct a footpath on both sides of major roads like Haley Street? If GM can just provide some context, because it was certainly something I had received some inquiries about.
Yep. Through you, through the chair. Generally, what we do is on the high order roads, we will construct a footpath on both sides. Some roads already have them existing. Generally, why we do that is we see a higher number of pedestrians go down those roads. Obviously, with the main road, you see more people traversing the road either on cycles, like kids going to school, sporting fields, and those sort of things. What we also find is if we don't have a footpath on both sides of the road, in similar to Haley Street, you'll have kids trying to cross 4 lanes at a time. So generally what we do is if there's a need for it, and it's not guaranteed that there'll be a footpath on both sides, but if there's a generation need for that and a safety need, then we'll look to put one on both sides. Generally on council roads, we'll normally only have one on the side of the road. But depends. I have seen them in not every town's the same, but I have seen them in some streets that there's been 2 footpaths if they're really close to schools and those sort of things as well. So generally you'll see high pedestrian use in around those TMR corridors, and stop the kids basically on the road and then crossing the road also.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, last chance, councillors, to ask any questions on the roads and drainage portfolio. Okay, the roads and drainage portfolio has been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Shoemaker. Sorry, all in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, 6.2 minutes of the Traffic Advisory Committee meeting held Tuesday, the 16th of March, 2021. The summary: the minutes of the Traffic Advisory Committee meeting held in the Warren Trust Chambers of the South Burnett Regional Council on Tuesday, the 16th of March 2021 are provided to Council to note and consider. So we've all had a chance to read them leading up to the meeting. The officer's recommendation that Council endorse the attached minutes and recommendations of the Traffic Advisory Committee held Tuesday, the 16th of March 2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, second. Councillor Froloff, any questions with what you got there? Thank you, Councillor Potter.
A couple of questions. So the first question was I know this has been discussed before, and I know you'll probably have to take it back to the meeting yet again, is the Myers Taylors Road and Bunya Highway intersection. If we can bring that back to an 80k zone, I've been approached by numerous people, especially since the last incident there, because I see that we're doing there's talk of the Kingaroy, Barkers Creek Road, Redmonds Road intersection being proposed, and a speed reduction to, I'm assuming, 80 k's, which I think is probably a fantastic idea because of the curve on that road. But if you could discuss the Myers, Taylors and Bunya Highway, which would be fantastic. And the other thing is, I did notice in your minutes that there is what we call Fatality Free Friday on May the 28th. So it'd be really good if we could push that out maybe through social media a little bit, please.
GM, you
Yeah,
respond?
through the chair. Thanks, councillor. So, what we'll do, we're aware that there was an accident at the Taylors Road intersection, in the Bunya Highway Mears Road intersection. We'll flag that for TMR to have another review of that in light of that accident. We'll place that on the next TAC agenda. And in regards to Redmonds, we'll go back and have a chat with TMR also around. Obviously, they own those corridors on those intersections, so we'll flag that also to go back for a TAC review. Note that the high risk roads program is currently under construction out on the Diagala Highway as well, so happy to do that. And we'll mark up also that we'll just do a push on the Fatality Free Friday also. We'll also liaise with Queensland Police because they have run programs in the past. Obviously, last year we didn't do any because of COVID, but the year before, I think we had the police had to sign the car in the shopping centre. So we'll have a chat to them also to see what's available if we can work together in that space. Did I get all of them, councillor? Yep. Okay.
Happy with that, Councillor Potter? Councillor Shoemaker?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a couple of questions for GM Meehan. Just with the minutes, I just wanted to ask, firstly, with the announcement of the town entry treatments, I just wanted to understand how that announcement from DTMR come to fruition. Is that something that's, an outcome of these consistent meetings? Is probably my first question. My second question is just in relation to the speed limits on Levers Road and there was another one at Tingura Loop Road speed reduction. I just noticed that it says here that the road's a single lane road and cannot be signed. I just wanted to better understand what that actually meant, because I imagine there's a lot of those single lane roads in the South Burnett, and it seems crazy to take out signage that's already there. But I'm sure there's more information there I don't understand. And the last thing I just wanted to check, on the back was the DTMR federal stimulus packages. I just wanted to understand probably that conversation that you've had there. Is that around the projects that council's putting forward, or some of the projects underway that we are, that will be completed? Just probably wanted to understand a little bit more about that.
Yeah, through the chair, I might give those to James to answer if I may. If I miss one, pull us up. I'll just answer the first one for you, and I'll give James the last two. So just in relation to the safety upgrades, we're going to ask TMR for some further information in relation to those. I noticed the CEO sent that out on Friday night. That project is done independent of council, so those treatments are applied without our advocacy, I suppose, would be the better word. It is part of a federal safety program, which has been obviously supplied to the groups. I think it's in the order of about 240,000. I think I saw in the leaflet the other day. So what we'll do is we'll mark that up also, Christy, if I can. That we'll just try and find out what those entry treatments are to each town and get that information to you. They are looking to obviously mark the asphalt, but also do some application to some of the medians, which is the red through the middle. So we'd just like to understand what some of those things are a bit better. But it'll be on the, James has just let me know, it'll be on the Bunya Highway towns, so which will be the roads that'll be applied to. So we'll grab that information for you. With the other two, council, I might just give those to James if that's okay. I think the first one you had was the speed on the single lane still. Yep.
Yeah, through you, Chair, Councillor Shoemaker. Tingura Loop Road it's up just west of Tingura, obviously. It's in between Tingura Chelmsford and Wandai Chinchilla Road, and it's just a little short interconnecting road that's like a convenience route on the western side of Tingura there. What is evident out on site, it really is dependent on the seasons as well, with some of the conditions of long grass on the shoulder there and the visibility through the there's one particular curve through there. When the grass is long, it's a little bit difficult to have reasonable visibility for oncoming traffic from the opposite direction. So that was raised by the QPS officer in charge of Wandai, and he wanted us to reconsider how that area operates in relation to traffic speed. So, collectively, the council office infrastructure team looked at it and said, well, maybe there's an opportunity to not necessarily put up a regulatory speed sign, because essentially it is no different to any other rural road. And essentially we would just look to try and maintain the status quo of rural road conditions in the vicinity of that area. So we're not trying to create anything that is different in the operations and the expectations of usage of that road. We just want to make it consistent. So it comes back to more routine operations and on how that network functions in that area. I'll need probably some guidance on that third item, sorry. The
federal stimulus packages.
Yes, and there was just another road too. I read about speed limits in Levers Road. We received the petition for Levers Road, so just reading the report here in the minutes. Yeah, just wanted a little bit of information around that, if you can. I've got it here somewhere. It's probably right in front of me. Thank you. Yeah, traffic counts revealed high number of cars travelling over 70 kilometres. Road is a single lane seal and cannot be signed. SBRC to advise petitioners and opposers no action will be taken. I just wanted to understand the single lane methodology, that it can't be signed,
Sure.
And it probably leans into what you're saying around rural roads collectively, a consistent standard. So just probably wanted to understand a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah, so with Levers Road, there was some work done up there a few years ago off the back of a bit of a land slippage, and we had to realign Levers Road. Essentially, the traffic volumes are still quite low. They're consistent with other rural roads in that general area. We did receive a petition from a number of residents who like to walk along that road periodically. And from there, we thought, well, let's get some data and help understand their concerns better. So what we did was put out some traffic counters to assist us with numbers and understanding speed and just what are the other environmental conditions that contribute to that area. The data came back being fairly consistent with what we thought. The traffic volumes were in that vicinity, I think, of about 60 to 70 vehicles a day, and the operating speed was in the vicinity of that. It was higher than 70 kilometres an hour, which is not surprising for a rural road. It was up, I think, around the 80 to 90 kilometres an hour from memory, in that sort of range. So essentially from there we said, well, this doesn't quite support what they are seeking as an outcome. We also did receive a letter from an adjacent resident up there opposing the proposal for the 70k because he wanted to maintain an open speed environment consistent, very much in line with the assumptions that we put in place as well from a technical point of view. So essentially we've, through the committee, we advised that we felt that it was better that we leave it as it is and that we respond to the petitioners, advising them of the assessment and also advising of that that other resident who was opposing the speed change, and just letting them know that they all get the same message at the same time on council's assessment. So we've actioned that in the background, given that this meeting occurred back in March. So from there, we're looking to try and close out Levers Road from that assessment. In relation to the federal stimulus packages, I can only... Right, sorry, yeah, jumped ahead. So in relation to, there's a technical publication called the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices that is one of the Bibles of local government engineering, in all honesty. It provides some well-known statewide solutions on and consistency of application on roads. In there, it provides some guidance and advice around how do we approach single lane seal roads and why do we feel that we need to treat them similar to 2-lane seal roads as opposed to maybe unsealed roads. So there is some guidance in there from the state. So the state government publishes that document as well, is around they feel that it's the better application of driving to conditions, which aligns also with the traffic volumes and some of the expectations. So and what I mean by expectations is around the frequency and the types of challenges that you might experience on single lane sealed roads are more consistent with those that are unsealed roads rather than 2-lane sealed roads. So it is something that you'll see that there is some warning signage, but it doesn't become too detailed. It is more advisory and warning signage that you'll see on those types of roads, but that you won't see the same standard and the frequency of signage as what you would see on a 2-lane sealed road as to what you would see on a single-lane sealed road or an unsealed road. So the industry likes to try and just stage it and really help advise the drivers, but essentially at the end of the day, the users are in control of their vehicles. They need to be driving to conditions and have the awareness to support the operation of those vehicles as well. So hopefully that provides a bit of background context. Councillor?
Yeah, no, that's great. And just thank you for that. I really do. And it sounds like there's been a lot of work behind the scenes on that Levers Road petition, which is excellent in doing the assessment, really understanding the issue and if there is anything different that can be done. So well done. And yeah, just good to understand that, because I think living here all my life, I drive on rural roads all my life. I never really thought about it. And yeah, it was good context. So thank you very much. And yeah, just the DTMR federal stimulus packages, if that's all right, Deputy Mayor, just would like a bit of an update there on that discussion point. There's some big ticket items in there that I know we've been talking about for some time.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. The town entry treatments Aaron just touched on, they're predominantly on the Bunya Highway, just as a bit of background advice. Wondai-Proston culvert replacements, it's the section on Wondai-Proston Road where the chevron shoulders exist. It's been a long-standing issue. There's been a failure of a culvert out there where what's called the head wall or the face of the culvert has separated from the rest of the culvert. It's been like that for a fair period of time. And as such, Main Roads went and signed and chevroned out that area back to 1 lane for that crossing. The opportunity has come to actually do something about that culvert. It is a decent sized culvert as well. The pipes are quite large. I think they're about 2.1 metre diameter pipes. So I'm led to believe that they're in the process of getting that. It's definitely been procured, and I think they're in the process of mobilising to site for the installation of that as we speak. So yeah, so it's we've certainly been engaged through our materials laboratory to support the delivery of that work as well on the Main Roads network, and that's great to see that particular item's been taken care of. Nanango turn lane upgrades and traffic treatments, I think that's to do with the traffic signals, similar with what has been done on the Kingaroy Street lights in Kingaroy here. Observations that people may have made is just around how some of the signals have changed and the frequency and the operations of those intersections. A little bit slower these days. What I'm led to believe is that they've taken away the right turn filter, which is where it turns green after pedestrians have crossed on the right turn movements at those signals. They're looking at implementing a similar treatment to the Nanango lights as well, from a level of consistency, I suppose. But that's probably the limitation of what I'm familiar with at that intersection. The Bowie Crawford right turn lane upgrades, that's to do with the Bunya Highway just on the northern side of town here. They're looking at trying to upgrade that intersection to have a dedicated turn slip lane. So that's a dedicated right turn lane into Bowie Crawford, is just on the northern side as you head east. At the moment, I think it's just got like a bit of a sealed shoulder. It's like a lower standard of intersection that's currently there, and Main Roads are trying to phase out that type of intersection with what's up there. So it's generally speaking a very similar footprint of road. It's just a change in line marking essentially that happens around that particular upgrade. Maidenwell Bunya Mountains Road ceiling, I think that is nominated for a future tranche. We're still trying to work with Main Roads on that particular item as to whether it is going to be successful, because they did nominate projects that were as a contingency pile. If other funding became available, those projects could work their way up from the bottom. Mundubbera-Geelong Road, there's about 3 sections of Mundubbera-Geelong Road out there that are single lane seal, out between the council boundary with North Burnett, back to Bravinia Creek, and there's a section there back towards around Gerrards Road as well, just on that northern side. So I know Main Roads are looking at delivering that over the second and third tranches, which aligns with the pretty much next financial year. So the second tranche is from July to December of this year, and the third tranche is from January to June in 2022. So that is underway with what Main Roads have nominated. And just as a last item, the vegetation clearing, there's about 4 or 5 of the Main Roads network that they've nominated. Off the top of my head, there's probably 2 that I can recall, I think for Wandai-Proston Road and for Kingaroy-Barkers Creek Road. But there are a few more that I'm happy to bring back that information once I can put my hands on it.
For the update, it's great to hear that there is some progression. Like, we talk about these things for so long, and certainly I know advocacy has been a big part of what council here has done for the last few years, particularly around, that Mundubbera-Geelong Road and the Bunny Mountains Road. So it's just fabulous to hear those conversations are starting to feed into some solutions and some action. So thank you for the update.
Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you, Deputy Mayor Jones, I would just like to like some update on a couple of the bridge issues we've been having. So between here and Maidenwell and past Maidenwell, the Tandrangee School, what is happening with all these bridges that were 2 lanes that have been taken out to 1 lanes? Are they replacing the bridges, especially at Tandrangee School there? Barkers Creek, I'm just wondering what's happening with all of these bridges, thanks.
Yeah, through the chair, so the Tandrangee is the only one that we're aware of that's in forward design program. So it's not funded at this stage that we're aware of, but our understanding is that it's in business case development with the regional and district offices of TMR. So there has been some changes there. I think we brought back information actually it might be in the minutes here, I think, of the change in speed environment out there. So that's been completed, and TMR are dealing directly with the local bus group, which they've already written to in regards to that issue. So as far as any other upgrades to 2 lane, we're not aware of any that's been applied to other than that bridge.
Okay, councillors, no more questions there. So we have the committee recommendation that the committee recommends to council that council endorse the attached minutes and recommendations of the Traffic Advisory Committee held Tuesday the 16th of March 2021. Move Councillor Potter, second Councillor Froloff. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 6.3, Highsville Footpath Petition. This report seeks to update council on the progress of the petition received 24th of March 2021 and accepts as Resolution 2021-291. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council that council consider the footpath request between Highsville and Gwen Street along the Wandai-Proston Road in the development of its Forward Capital Works program. So there was a little bit of a report, a diagram over the back, a little bit of a brief. A petition was received by council on the 1st of March 21 and noted at the March ordinary meeting of council on 24th of March 21, petitioning for the construction of a footpath between Highsville Township and Gwen Street along Wandai-Proston Road, Main Street, Highsville. Further investigation and scoping will be undertaken to understand the project budget, and this project will be added for future consideration by council in developing its Forward Works program. Do I have a mover for that? Thanks, Councillor Duff. Seconder, Councillor Potter. Questions? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just had a couple of questions for the team. Just looking at the map, it seems like quite a significant length of footpath. So I wondered when this come back, is there a possibility to look at potentially a staged approach, or even potentially some different ceiling options that might be more of a cost-effective solution, similar to what Nanango's got on the Ros Gregor walkway and these sorts of things, where it's just a sealed option, just so that council can consider all options. I'm mindful of the community there, and while there aren't a lot of residents in the area, I can understand why they're looking for that footpath. So probably, I imagine a concrete path would be quite expensive, but perhaps if there are some other options that council could consider in that scoping, I'd like some more information about that.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, if I may, councillor, I think that's a great idea that we look at a stage and possibly changing those materials out. The way we were looking to treat these is we're currently developing a program at the moment for footpaths, and we're currently doing inspections of all the current footpaths so we can look at the renewals. The way we thought we would treat these, consistent with the request for road upgrades, is that we would place them in the list of available capital works for council to consider as it builds its forward year program. And then what we would look to do is take direction from council on which ones are the priority for council to develop those stages further, so that we can put those design resources into them based on your budget availability, if I may. What we will do as part of that concept is we'll look at just putting an estimate across this project before it gets added to the program for the different materials, if that's okay, and then that way you can give a bit of a context of what it might cost you for different options. So yeah, this will come back to council in the new financial year as you tell us how we stack our priority projects from there, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, I certainly appreciate the challenges with that priority list, and just, I guess, thinking about the outcomes, and for a small town such as Hyattsville, I really do appreciate the opportunity maybe to assess different options for different types of materials or infrastructure that could give us a very similar outcome. Really, it's about providing that safe pedestrian access, but maybe at a more cost-effective solution. So yeah, appreciate that coming back.
Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to find out, because I know that their preferred option was to go through the along that power line. And I think that might be private land, and I just wanted to see the other two options you've just got is going on either side of the footpath, just in the main street. I think there's challenges probably on that one side with trees there. Just wanted to comment around the three options.
Yeah, through the chair, what we'll do is when we go through and do the concept planning for these, we'll go through and price what some of those options are. One of the things that we'll do at the same time is do an environmental assessment, just to see what that impact is as well. We haven't done any further work on this at this stage, given that it would cost us operational design. So what we thought we would do is, in that, when we build that program post-budget, where council sets its program for the next 2 or 3 years, we'll go through and do a pass on those to see what the impact of that is. Similar to the councillor's comments before, it's there's options there where we might be able to use a different material which would save some money, and also try to avoid cost implications of environmental clearing and those sort of things as well.
Thank you.
All right, so we have in front of us the recommendation that the committee recommend to council that council consider the footpath request between Hyattsville and Gwen Street along the Wandai-Proston Road in the development of its forward capital works program. Moved by Councillor Duff, seconded by Councillor Potter. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 6.4, George Street Car Park. The report seeks to update council on the concept design of the George Street Car Park. The officer's recommendation that council note the attached update on George Street Car Park. And you can see over the back there's a bit of a diagram and a summary of works. The scope of works of this project is to utilise council-owned land located on George Street, adjacent to the old rail corridor, for a formalised off-street car parking area. This will provide the community, businesses and tourists a safe and central location to park and access to the Kingaroy CBD. The scope of works is to provide an asphalt sealed parking area to a modern design standard including associated curb and channel and drainage, pavement, lighting, CCTV surveillance, concrete footpath, landscaping and other required safety features. There's a concept design and the benefits to the CBD and rail trail interconnection. This facility will provide a formalised and centralised parking area for the Kingaroy CBD in a location that promotes access to Haley Street, Glendon Street, King Street and Kingaroy Street. This will help bring visitors to surrounding retail and food businesses. The close vicinity to the final destination of the Kilkeven to Kingaroy Rail Trail will act as a convenient and safe rail head for all users. So there you go. That's a bit of an update on that. So do we have a mover that the council note the attached update on George Street car park? Councillor Potter, second. Councillor Shoemaker, any questions? Councillor Potter?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I just want to say thank you for this concept plan. It's great. And I also want to say thank you because I've had a few comments about when we do this car park, are we going to get rid of the trees? So I just need to make sure that I can see the trees marked in here, if I'm seeing this correctly. So we're not losing any of those big shade trees that are at the back in that car park area.
Yeah, through the chair. On the white line, which is about middle there, you'll see four circles that are currently there. That's the existing trees. So we're looking to keep the big ones that are there. Obviously, they provide natural shade for the area. So they're the ones that we're looking to remain at this stage. Obviously, if council was to proceed, we would bring back a more detailed design, but we'll be looking to retain the existing trees, if that makes sense. I think natural shades are a great asset if you've got them there and they're quite established. So,
Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I agree with Councillor Potter. I think it could be a really great project, particularly in providing a designated trailhead for the rail trail. I just wondered with the design, is there opportunity, I'm mindful of the space, but is there opportunity to look at some parking for caravans or RVs or people who are travelling with their bicycles and things and are looking for somewhere to pull off and use the rail trail, is my first question. And yeah, I just think certainly a lot of the feedback from CBD businesses is that their workers are struggling to find places to park around town that don't impede on business in the CBD. So I think actually having a space that could also support better outcomes for the people who are working in the CBD is a really good thing as well. So, and complements the KTP project with the loss of parking to meet the regulatory requirements. So yeah, just around those caravans, please, GM Meehan.
yeah, through the chair. Yeah, certainly, councillor. We would be we can configure that to accommodate more. We'd be more than happy to work with council around get the layout right to suit the need. I think yeah, 100% correct with the rail trail head there. That was part of the concept is not just to support the CBD, but to, obviously we've got our application at the moment to connect the rail trail through there. I think that would be an opportunity for essentially a major staging area for people to access our region, or at least from Kingaroy. So yeah, we would definitely be looking to cater there for facilities and day trippers there, and particularly if people want to pull up and do a day trip in their caravan, then they've got secure parking and those sort of things in the CBD. If we were to proceed with the project, we would link that to the CCTV and security through and lighting upgrades and those sort of things. So definitely just makes it a little bit more safer for people up there as well. So happy to take the feedback and work further.
Yeah, thank you, GM Meehan and Deputy Mayor Jones. Just for the benefit of the chamber, I've got the South Burnett Rail Trail counter data for April, and I just thought you should know that April counters, the 2 kilometre marker here in Kingaroy has had 3,106 passes. The Memorandum counter has had 983 passes, and the Tingura counter has 991 passes. So there's a 4th counter being installed at the moment at Mergen, but it's definitely showing, 3,106 passes on that counter during April in Kingaroy is just absolutely amazing, and certainly the opportunity I think a project like this brings to leverage those passers, making sure they've got somewhere safe to park so that they are walking through to our CBD and buying a coffee and doing some things while they're here. So rather than at the moment parking on the edge of the highway, which certainly isn't ideal. So no, it's excellent. I'm really looking forward to being a part of this project.
Thank you, councillor. And just, I'll just make a quick comment. I think what's worth noting is it's a great opportunity that we may be able to recycle some of the materials that are coming out of the CBD upgrade. So that will help construction of that car park and lower the costs. And it would be a significant addition to the whole of the Kingaroy project and the surrounding area. So I think it's a great opportunity. It's a win-win for everybody. Alrighty, so we currently have the committee's recommendation sitting in front of us. That council note the attached update on George Street car park to be accepted. Moved councillor Potter, seconded councillor Shoemaker. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 6.5, Kingaroy Transformation Project update. We have a summary at March's Infrastructure Standing Committee. It was requested that monthly updates on the Kingaroy Transformation Project be presented to future infrastructure standing committees. The officer's recommendation that council note the attached Kingaroy Transformation Project update report for information. And you can see it all there, and we've got the project manager there, Alan Christensen. So I'll hand over now to, I guess we'll have we need to have someone to move it. Councillor Shoemaker, someone to second, Councillor Froloff. I'll now hand over to GM Meehan and Alan Christensen to take us through this update.
Yeah, through the chair. If council's happy, I might just get Al to talk to some of the key elements of the report, if that's okay, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I won't go through the whole report of it, but if there are questions, obviously we'll take them on notice. I guess the key things are progress, program progress and costs. So overall, the project's still on target. We're about 7 days behind. We did a fairly detailed review just yesterday of our overall Gantt chart, and we are pretty much bang on where we said we're going to be. So it has been a little bit of a soft start, but as I've identified there, I think it's been beneficial, and we'll certainly reap those benefits in the long term of the coordination and the learnings we've had. There's a list of sort of achievements, but they're quite obvious, and thanks to the councillors who were available last week to have a look at the first pour. We did another one yesterday, and I'm not absolutely sure whether there's one happening this morning because of the rain, but yeah. So yeah, and obviously we can't work. We've got to work around the rain. So just in terms of progress, the Gantt chart there, sorry, the bar chart on page 43 just gives you an indication of physical progress on each of those items. It's quite detailed there. We have another number of more, a greater number of items that we track from a cost and progress point of view, but just try to roll them up into sensible progress for you. We have commissioned the water main now. That happened last Thursday or Friday in the first section. We still obviously commissioning the remaining parts, but that's overall going quite well. In terms of budget, so we're tracking, and we have done a detailed review post our last meeting, so thanks for the call out there and the challenge, and we've done that, and provided a table there, hopefully provides a bit more information and clarity for councillors. So we have actual expenditure on the top line, and that includes all of the design work, the overheads for the consultation, and the site establishment costs, etc., plus the construction costs that roll up to the $2,020,000. As of yesterday, we were sitting at $2,108,000. So spend around that $80,000 to $100,000 a week at the moment. Our next line is the expected final cost, estimated final cost. So that's based on the actuals and then our percentage complete. So we're tracking at about 98% on stage one without the consumption of any contingencies. So any variations and change of scope's been absorbed into those current estimates, which is good. So we're not pulling on our safety blanket, if you like, at this stage, but there will be times when we do have to do that. And then below that, we've just provided the estimate, which is effectively the budget, including overheads and contingencies. So that's the total available funds now is $15.3 15.35, but the estimate's 15.339. So as I said, we're at about 98%. That was as at the 19th. We did another review yesterday, just with the there's a 2-weekly cycle with pays, so they come through today. We'll do another review post that today and tomorrow. So that's going well. Yep. There have been a couple of items with the curb and channel and stormwater, for example, have gone over our estimate. So we're just reviewing methodology on that. The first stage there was a lot of handwork, which is more expensive per lineal metre, and that's how we cost curb and channel. And then with the stormwater, we did have to remove some asbestos, so that was again a cost that we absorbed into the estimates. Moving forward, we're just adjusting our methodology. Material types, for example, we're moving to utilise plastic and reinforced glass pipes as opposed to concrete pipes, which are very difficult to get at the moment. And then, again, just reviewing the methodology, making sure we're delivering effective and cost-effective and efficient processes. So the council teams have poured the 2 planters. So the ones that you see there, it was a good learning, and we have Armstrong Concreting on board now as contract concreters. And as they see and learn what the project's about, I think it'll build confidence in the industry to provide a bit more competitiveness in terms of if when we go out to get quotes again in that space. So that's been a valuable learning for the project, and will certainly save us money in the moving forward. We'll come back to the external update. Aaron will just talk to that. Just quickly on probably our biggest risk, I suppose, at the moment is material supply and costs. So I've just listed out a few key items there that have seen significant cost increases. So reinforced concrete pipes, for example, have gone up 10% currently. The industry is saying that probably will increase again, but the biggest issue is supply times is effectively 6 to 7 months. So if you don't have an order placed and a contract, you're waiting at least 7 months for concrete pipes. So we have forward ordered for the current stages, and actually worked with Main Roads to acquire some pipes from them and looked at those alternative materials. But even PVC pipes and conduits, so that's all the electrical comms, that's seen a 16% price rise from our first purchase. So we've procured 14 kilometres of conduits and pipe, but that supply time has also pushed out a little bit just due to the lack of resin in Australia. So that's probably our biggest risk. We have seen a variation develop around the electrical and loop traffic signal loops around the traffic signals. There's 4 intersections that have traffic signals in the project. Main Roads are requiring those pits that require re-levelling to be replaced with the current standard, and that was the variation that wasn't considered or identified at the time of pricing. Spoken to Main Roads subsequently, they will contribute to the 3 intersections that remain part of the contract that we have with them, which is Kingaroy and Hayley Street. It's likely council will have to contribute to the the Alfred Youngman Street intersection, and that work's happening next week. So MI Electric will be up here on the 10th, commencing that work. So again, that's just a variation that's developed that we're managing and working with Main Roads. I'm actually meeting Main Roads tomorrow afternoon to discuss a couple of issues while we're in Bundaberg for a meeting, and that's one of those issues. So moving forward, we'll continue. So we've just engaged additional resources in the civil team. So we've got civil contractors with an additional machine and additional operator. The operators also are required to labour, so they're not just sitting on a machine watching everyone else work. We've got our electrical civil team, so they're laying the conduits and the pits. They're starting next Monday, I think it is. And also we've just this week had Armstrong Concreting start with us. So we'll see a fairly substantial increase in the role, in the progression over the next couple of months, continuing along Alfred Street. At the same time, we're also procuring, and that will be awarded this week, the water main installation in Hayley Street. They'll also be doing some stormwater work. So when we're shutting the road down, we're going to leverage off that and get any of the road crossings for stormwater, comms, and obviously water done at the same time, water and recycled water done at the same time. So it's yeah, a little bit of a challenge getting the resources locally and making sure we're getting value for money and capacity and capability. But yeah, working with those local contractors pretty effectively. We've got the 3-week look ahead there, and that's very much it is subject to a bit of change, and we optimise that depending on resources. So, for example, we had planned to pour Thursday initially in front of hunter gatherer. We were able to bring that forward to today. Rain might intervene in that, but we do adjust to suit the particular circumstances, and we're working with those businesses. But just a couple of key aspects there. We expect, weather dependent, to have that northern side of the Alfred Street footpath open by next Friday to pedestrian traffic, and the road and the parking should be open on that week, during that week of the 24th of May. All being well. The roundabout at Glennon Street, we've just delayed it from this week till next week, just on the basis of resources. But we'll be progressively closing off a leg, do the work, go around to the next leg, and basically work in a clockwise direction around that. Probably just in a consultation sense, one of the key things that did come out of that, we had a meeting with a guy from Inclusion Access. Basically, he is a gentleman who developed a disability through an accident later in life, and has a company that effectively does audits on these types of projects. He was exceptionally impressed with what we've done in the design to address the issues that we have for those people with all sorts of limitations or disabilities, and be they visual, psychological, physical, and other. And we're talking about him as to potentially do a formal audit and getting a proposal from him in that space. It's certainly, as I've said before, a massive need in our community, and something that's been very, very well received. And aside from that, just a couple of key summaries, probably just of interest to councillors. We've on the register, we've got 49 requests for quotation or tenders that have gone out. We've awarded 31, and 16 of them have been to local suppliers, and the value of that to local suppliers is currently around, it's in excess of $750,000. Obviously, from a commercial point of view, we're not putting the values of that into the public sphere, but that information's available. So we track that of what goes out, and there are a couple that are currently being assessed and will be awarded this week. Aside from that, I might just hand back to Aaron for the external.
Yeah, thanks, Al. I'm happy to take questions after from the council. Just through the chair, just on page 44, just get council to note the external update if you haven't already picked it up. Obviously, we're finalised with TMR at the moment. Just in relation to the power, we had a look at this week. Essentially, we haven't been able to reach agreement with Energy Queensland, the Australian Energy Regulator, to underground that power. Our proposal at this stage would be that the power remains up above ground with no cost to council, so we would just proceed. Obviously, we've had to do our first pour. At the moment, you don't have a resolution to actually put it underground. That wasn't in the resolution, so our way of thinking was that we would just proceed. Obviously, what we would do is continue to work with Ergon and advocate for them to put that in a forward program to bring that power underground. But I just wanted council to be aware of that if you had not picked up, that unfortunately we can't get the HV and the LV underneath. But that's the way it goes, unfortunately. So at this stage, we propose to proceed with the project as is. And the power will remain above ground so that we don't absorb those costs. If that's okay, just for noting. Sorry, Chair. I just wanted to make one more comment, if I may. Just wanted to probably say a big thank you to in Alfred Street at the moment, and just appreciate that their patience with our project. They've been really, really good to deal with. I know there's probably been a bit of a burden for them, and particularly as Al said, Alfred Street is probably been our slowest stage as we test construction methodologies. Obviously, coming out of this stage, we'll look to accelerate. But yeah, really appreciate the patience and the support of the community. They've been really, really good to deal with. So yeah, we as a project team, we much appreciate that. So that's us, Chair. If happy to take questions.
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks, GM. And councillors, any questions on that? Councillor Duff
Oh,
first.
yes,
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor. Yeah, you probably answered my question. The question I was going to ask about what impact that was about Ergon not supplying the funds and also the main roads like DTMR, but you've always they're going to contribute some, but not all of the planned project that you had hoped. Is that correct?
Through the chair, no, TMR have given the full amount that we've requested. So yeah, obviously, we have a signed contract. Yep. So just Ergon, we suggest we leave the power where it is, and yep, and we continue on.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I think this is a fabulous report. Thank you so much for the work that's gone into this. And certainly, it's just music to my ears to hear, the time that's been taken to really learn from the lessons so that we can accelerate into the CBD, because that's certainly been the feedback from a lot of the CBD owners that have started. It's been, we know this is going to be a disruption, but the sooner we can get in and out, the better. So thank you. I know there's a lot of thought that's gone into that. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. First was just with the expenditure and budget summary, there's a column at the end that says conting. Why? And I just didn't quite understand what that was for.
That's contingency. Sorry, councillor. It's just carried the Y down.
Oh.
Yep. So that's your
that's our
800,000. Yep. No. I saw it before. I made the same mistake before because I thought.
Thinking, what are we buying there?
Yeah. No. It's the good news. The good news is we haven't spent any of it.
And that is very good news. Thank you. And the other question I had, just with, it says in the external agency update, and I'd certainly like to acknowledge the work that's gone into, I know there are long-term conversations that have been had with both Ergon and DTMR. It's great to hear DTMR has come on board and given that funding. It's certainly needed. I just wanted to ask a question. It says in the update, with the DTMR contract and funding now confirmed, a revised program and expenditure forecast will be prepared, having regard for available construction resources and procurement requirements. I just wanted to understand that a little bit better, if you can.
Yeah, through the chair. So with Haley Street and Kingaroy Street being TMR corridors, we'll be looking to work with them around the phasing of their works. What we've asked the team to do is we will continue into Alfred Street at this stage because obviously the water main's there ready to go, and we'll start to accelerate into there. And Alan and the team will be talking to the businesses about the impact of that. What we're currently doing at the moment is planning what our construction phase is going forward. Obviously, with our stakeholder coming on board, we've got to liaise with them around what phasing do they want to do and how quickly they want to do it. Also, I'm just mindful too that if we are changing some of the phasing or some of our expected construction program, it's really important for the team to be out there talking to the businesses. Particularly if we were to approach Haley Street, we may do Haley Street in stages. And also there's obviously impacts on traffic there as well. So the idea of what we're looking for there is before we roll into those streets, we want to see what that planned phasing looks like. And obviously I think we'll probably be in a position for the next month's report to give council some further detail of what does it look like between now and Christmas, I suppose, around that construction phasing. So we don't want to just go and open up. We want to make sure we get it right so people understand what we're doing. And it might be that we actually end up doing more in the centre of the road first at TMR request to get their contract underway as opposed to doing more work on the footpath, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. And just, completely understand. And certainly just with the current estimated final cost, I'm just wondering, with some of the discussion that you've had around the increase in cost of materials and the challenge to get materials, has that changed since council's originally workshopped that bellwether report, or that's still the same report, but still reflecting on the same numbers? Do we review that based on some of these changes as we go?
Yeah, absolutely. So the good news about Alfred Street and probably where it will supersede the Bellwether one is because we've got actual quotations coming through now. What Alan and his team will do is apply those pricings to the rest of the project. So at the moment, like we have our landscaping is out for quotation. Our pits and materials are now coming in. So what Alan and his team will do is by putting that EFC in there, is that we will start to apply those unit rates across the project. So we're probably a bit further down the road coming out of Alfred. We've still got costs coming in for Alfred, which we want to review. Obviously, it's our first stage, this is our first line of pour. But what we'll do is the project, as our EFC is developed, will be based on actual costs so if that makes sense, it probably will start to supersede what we previously had on all of our other documents. And this is where Alan and his team have done a good job in the last month to really set up so we can see those staging schedules so that we can get a bit more confidence in what's going on. And if something was to change, then we definitely will know about it as soon as it appears to us, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the additional information.
Any further questions, councils? Sorry. Okay, so we have the committee's recommendation in front of us that council note the attached Kingaroy Transformation Project update report for information. Moved by Councillor Shoemaker, seconded by Councillor Froloff. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We now move on to 6.6, Wondai Industrial Estate. And a quick summary: request for further consideration by the Mayor for potential upgrading of the road network in the Wondai Industrial Estate at the ordinary meeting of the 28th of April 2021. The officer's recommendation that upgrades for B-double access through the Wondai Industrial Estate be considered for design and options be presented to a future standing committee for consideration. A bit of background: at the Infrastructure Standing Committee on the 7th of April 21, a project was put forward with submission to the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program to the value of $900,000 for Wondai Industrial Estate. The project was for the estate entry and pavement overlay. A report was requested from April ordinary meeting to consider the scope of works and if extra funding may be required for the project for council discussion and direction. So do I have a mover for that? Councillor Duff, seconder Councillor Henson. Questions, councillors? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. Just wanting to know, obviously that's a long-term project. How are we handling the immediate problem that they have of not being able to get their B-doubles in there? I did speak to some of the Parkside representatives, and they said that we're issuing permits. And my question is, are they for individual trucks? Are they one-off permits? Are they ongoing permits? Like, how are we handling the immediate problem that they are facing? And also the other, not just Parkside, but all the other businesses that would be impacted as well.
Yeah, through the chair, I'll get James to answer part of that, but I'll probably just give council an update on where the project's at, if that's okay. Yeah, through the chair. So what we've done is obviously we've got the LRCI project, which is to look at the pavement through there. What we're doing at the moment is running design templates through there to see how we might get B-double as of right through this, I was going to say CBD, but through the industrial estate. There's two existing approvals that we're aware of. So there was a historic approval for one truck to go in there and make a left-hand turn that we weren't aware about. James has given a provisional approval to a truck for Parkside to do the straight ahead movement only, not to make turns into Burrows Street or into Bunya Avenue. What we're doing at the moment is we're looking at all the intersections to see what vehicles can actually turn in there. So the issue that you have, obviously, with the B-double is crossing onto the opposite side of the road. So some of those intersections are quite narrow. So we're looking to have that design. We're looking to probably bring that back to the June standing committees because obviously you've got the LRCI project. We're looking to see what design options are needed to give B-double right through there. And obviously go into consultation. We're currently working through keeping Bunya Avenue as a two-way street, and obviously making one way through the rest of the estate, which may enable some of that to save us the cost. So we hope to have that back at the next meeting at this stage. That's our aim. The guys were up there last night doing measure ups for us just to see what we need. In relation to TMR, I spoke to the district director on Saturday afternoon. They will give us their assistance in developing a solution for the estate as far as the intersection goes. So they've been quite cooperative there, quite willing to work with us. In relation to the current applications that are in there in the interim, I want to just get James to answer that, councillor, if that's okay.
Through you, Chair. So we have received a NHVR application from Parkside around seeking access for all roads within the estate, which is quite a challenge in all honesty. We were hoping that it was just going to be around wanting to access Parkside individually, but what has actually been received is around wanting to open up access for the whole estate for that one particular movement. So we are just currently working with the regulator in wanting to send back information to the applicant as well in this regard, because we want to make sure that what we're assessing and what can physically occur on site meets the needs of what the actual use is in going into the estate and then getting to where they need it as a destination, as opposed to needing to use every street within the estate for the purpose of operation. As Aaron touched on, it is quite a challenge to get B-doubles through that estate. It is a fairly narrow industrial estate in relation to road width. So we do have a number of challenges where what we call the swept path, or the actual envelope of movement at the intersections, those B-doubles take up the entire footprint of those intersections, and we still have two-way traffic operations through there. So that is a challenge for us. We did receive the application Wednesday afternoon last week, so we are working under the prescribed timeframes. We don't propose to hold on to this any longer than we need to. Just want to make that abundantly clear that we are trying to work with the industry as much as possible, because their interest is around seeking approval ASAP. We want to help facilitate that, but at the same time, we do need to do some due diligence on what we can achieve through there, and where do we actually put in conditions that meet the needs of council, but also satisfy the needs of the operations of those vehicles that go in. What we're led to believe at this point in time is that it's a period permit. I think they're seeking a 3-year window of operation on the application at this point in time. So there is a renewal process that goes through the regulator with applications. As those 3 years come up, they then seek to reapply. Council has the opportunity to put reasonable and relevant conditions associated with those movements as those applications are received to help progress where council may be at a point in time, or even where the industry is at a point in time as well.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I've probably got a couple of questions which might have to be taken on notice and come back, and I'm happy to put them up for consideration in the officer's recommendation. I was trying to understand, this problem is not a new problem, and I was trying to understand more about when the industrial estate was actually established, who developed the industrial estate, where were the funds from the sale of the land in that industrial estate, where did they go? Were they put into the infrastructure for the industrial estate? And have commercial operators in the area actually paid any infrastructure charges? Certainly from a planning point of view, I'm mindful that large-scale operations have developed in the area, which is a great outcome, and I'm fully supportive of those outcomes. I'm just concerned that this is not a new problem. Clearly, this has been happening for a very long time, and clearly, we're now trying to catch up because we've realised that these things are happening, and all of a sudden B-doubles are coming into an area which, to the fairness of the operators in the area, have been there for a long time. So this is probably not something that's been seen to be a problem before. So I really would like to unpack this more. I'm mindful council's already committed that 900,000 from LRCI. When we look at those additional upgrades, I'm fully supportive because I recognise how important those operators are to our area. But I really want to understand a little bit more of the background and the history to this industrial estate. And there's some of the questions that I have that I think would enable a much richer conversation about this proposed works.
Yeah, through the chair, if I may, we can bring back a report as part of that design with the history of when the estate was established and what vehicle access was approved. My learned colleague to the right probably knows more than I do, but you are right. It's not a new problem. The B double access, as far as we're aware, has never been granted as of right through here. It's just interesting that there was a number of vehicles that were pulled up there. Again, we're only aware of the one that James has given provisional approval to. What we'll find is that the B doubles have probably been going in there historically without approval. And that's how this has happened. The one good thing in the sense of timing from our point of view is with the estate looking to fix the pavement, the fact that we're there now looking at design, that we might be able to come up with some options through one way and put some limitations there that might be able to solve the issue. So if council was happy, as part of the design report, when we bring it back, we can bring back the history of the estate if that was suitable, and that would allow us to put it all in a single package and keep our resources together. My understanding is that the estate, the first part of there, Peter might correct me, is pre-2000. So the second part of the estate, I might just hand to Peter if he might be able to give you a bit more, counsel, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so the first part of it, yeah, definitely need to bring back some the details, but yeah, the original, as a bunny over, the original estate would have been well prior to the 2000s. Wandai Shire Council did a subdivision of the back part where Parkside and all the development, and yeah, that would have been, so it was in the early 2000s. As far as infrastructure charges, it was very light on back in the Wandai Shire days, if anything was charged, because it was basically set up as the land was sold off at $5 a square metre, and it was like basically to try and bring businesses to town. So it was basically given away to establish businesses there, and that. So yeah, probably just have to bring back the details. But we are looking at sort of early 2000s, but the first part of the highway would have been well before that.
Yes, sorry, councillor. If you're happy, we could put bring the history back into that report with the one we were going to bring back, if that was.
Yeah, look, I think it's really important. Like, clearly what GME Omay has said here is very true. Like, it has, the calibre of businesses in that area is amazing, and the growth in that area since obviously 2000 is incredible. I guess it was just a matter of a bit of a ticking time bomb. Like, perhaps everything is sort of, the holes in the cheese have just lined up, and we've all of a sudden realised we've enabled this incredible growth but haven't had the infrastructure to support it. So I'm glad it's on the table and something that we can actually look to finding a solution, and particularly glad that we can look at, in line with this project, opportunities. Like, I really do think we need to find a way to make the estate B double access possible, and certainly I understand that will be a challenge for everybody involved, but I would certainly just like to appreciate more understanding around how we've gotten to this point, and certainly inform how we find a solution into the future. I can't see us not making this B double standard myself, but I certainly understand the challenges that face. Another issue we probably do need to also consider is the car parking in the area, that particularly in front of the Parkside operation through that middle street. Is there opportunities to improve that situation? Because certainly I understand, just driving your vehicle through there, it's quite a narrow road, particularly when everyone's parked in the area. So probably want to take a bit more of a deeper dive on this issue and not just come to a quick solution and say, here are the dollars, go fix it. I'd really like to understand where we've been, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor, if I may, another complication, which is a good complication, is but the sealing of sections of pavement down there for the Wandai Sprints. So they are a key consultation partner, so that whatever work is done down there takes into consideration the work that's been previously done, because the pavement in sections was done, I think, General Manager May and Wandai Shire's Day again for the sprint. So there is a section of that road network that's been paved for that event.
Yeah, so just what Councillor Shoemaker said, touched on some very good points there, and just it's my opinion, like the original design, I'm sure would never have been designed for the accompaniment of B doubles and all that sort of stuff. And with the growth, that Wondai estate down there is one of the fastest and probably the best industrial estate we have in the South Burnett. I'm fully on board with the fact that we have to make. I can't see any other option personally that we have to make this a B double access to these to enable this industrial estate to continue growing and all that sort of stuff. But it is a historical problem that the original design was never put forward to carry this amount of traffic. So, the businesses have been operating without permits and all that sort of stuff. So, council's in a position, I think, that we have to try and work with the whole organisation, the whole industrial estate down there to make sure we get a result that can continue to see Wondai prosper and continue to see these businesses grow. So, I commend the staff in what they're trying to do. Like this problem, as Councillor Shoemaker has said, has been a long time in the making, before 2000 and all that sort of stuff. And I think, what's happened in the past, we can take on board, but our problem at hand at the moment is to try and upgrade this to a B double access right through that industrial estate. And we as a council, I think, need to sit down and work on the budget, this coming budget, how we can fund that, and obviously taking on your comments about getting all the information and making sure that we get all the access right through that whole industrial estate, I think is very important. So I'm fully on board with the process that's involved. The staff are working very diligently down there, I believe, with Parkside in particular and all the other options down there. So I just think that council's in a position where we need to try and get a result for everybody, win-win for the community, win-win for the industrial estate and council. Councillor Duff, Councillor Henson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I'd just like to bring it to people's attention that the inclusion of B doubles in the transport industry has just brought that much efficiency to it, and certainly this industrial estate probably didn't take that on board when it was designed some time ago. And as Manager James has alluded to, it's more the length of the B doubles in those intersections is causing the havoc. It's certainly not the weight. Some people seem to think that these big configurations are detrimental to our roads, when I know the people in the industry, the more axles and more tyres we have under these prime movers and trailers and things is certainly an efficient way to move general freight, and certainly in Parkside establishments there. And as I'm sure this has been brought to council's attention, we've all gone down and taken a lot more notice of what's going on in that industrial estate. And I remember, for one, when it was built, it was extremely popular then, and it's gone ahead in leaps and bounds. But the fact that there's B doubles, it's not that the size and the weight of them, is just more the length of them that's detrimental. And it's so congested there, and it was designed quite tight. So I'm fully supportive of council working towards a solution to this, because the B doubles are an extremely important asset to the freight industry and that industrial estate.
Councillor Duff?
Thank you. I absolutely agree. I just think when it was designed, it obviously wasn't B double compliant, but I think there was an assumption from the particularly the businesses that have come in since that it was B double compliant. So my concern, and I've raised it before, was just how to get through this next period until we actually can get an outcome where it is B double gazetted. Just how, I know there's some other businesses apart from Parkside that are bringing B doubles in there, just whether we, what's the way forward? Should we be alerting those people? Should we be working with them, with the permits to try and get, temporary permits, this kind of thing? Because this, even if we do the upgrade, it's still going to be like maybe a fair way down the track. Just wanting to know what the interim measures are.
Yeah, through the chair, probably simplify on what James said earlier is those businesses who require B double need to get in contact with NHVR and ourselves to have a discussion. Unfortunately, it's not a case of us just giving a temporary blanket permit. We do have some issues there that we need. That's why it's not B double at the moment. So James and his team will do diligence around what we can approve in the interim and what we can't. So what James was saying before is that we encourage those businesses, and we're talking with a number of those operators now, and we are talking with Parkside, obviously also, is that we can't just give a blanket permit. Otherwise, there's some concerns about some of the movements that those vehicles may make. We will work with the business to do what we can in the interim. Obviously, with the existing permit, we're looking at how that was achieved. But as a group manager, I'm confident that we'll come back to council within the month with some concept of how that we can take this forward. So I think the sooner we get on this, the better, and then and understand what we're looking at here. Obviously, the works that we're proposing there is that we're working to a budget to try and achieve some things here. Because obviously we don't want to be going spending large, or our thoughts is we don't want to be going spending large amounts of money we don't have. So we are working to the existing project. How as part of those upgrades, can we get this to go two-way and partially one-way in some sections, and then do some intersection widening on some of the key ones so we can get two-way through there. So that's what we're working to. And again, the team was out there last night measuring stuff up. They come in late last night, trying to get a solution here as quickly as we can so that the council can make a decision and get some confidence around what goes forward. So. And then if we get the traffic configuration right, then we may be able to do some interim approvals based on that as well. So,
Councillor Schumacher.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to thank the team, like going out late into the night, measuring up the road is very much appreciated. No doubt they had families to be at home with. I just had one more question, just a thought around, and I know some other commercial operators in the area who have had this similar kind of thing happen over time where their operations have grown and they have nominated to seal or be a part of a council project to enable better access into their facilities. Like, are these some of, I'm mindful very much of the comment you made, money we don't have. Are there opportunities to unpack some of these conversations, or is there, you know, I guess I'm just thinking out loud, but I'm very mindful that there are dual benefits to this, and for our ratepayers to fund the entire amount may not be suitable. Certainly, I think the funding that we've got from LRCI is great, but I just wanted to understand, are there opportunities to engage in some discussions about co-funding some of these improvements to the network across the Wondai Industrial Estate, similar to what we've had with other large operators in the area?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, excellent point, Councillor. I think there's part of that history. I think it's important for us to go and look at what approvals have been given, and also what is the future of some of these developments in that area, so that we can understand. I'm mindful too that the pavement in the estate is on its age. Obviously, there's different stages there. One of the things that I think we need to consider also is, whilst there might be a newer part of the estate, as these developments grow, what is that pavement being designed for? Because whilst we can deal with the configuration, obviously we're seeing increased loading in here. That's why we're seeing fatigue on the front section. Yeah, I think it's important for us to understand that, and also, you know, how some of those things might work. Also, yeah, fully take your points, and we will have a look. Yep.
Yes, just on that and the comments around the funding and all that sort of stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, CEO or general manager, but the comment I made the other day at the general meeting, we haven't endorsed the 900,000. We've certainly allocated it, but we haven't endorsed that yet. But we do have options. We've got Works for Queensland money that we allocated into a infrastructure budget. There was $2 million there or something like that. Is there a possibility that we can, you know, instead of going the LRCI funding, if it is a $1.3 million job or something like that, can we transfer it across to Works for Queensland, that sort of stuff? And would that, if that's, we have to co-fund it through budgetary and LRCI, would that come out of Capital Works if that was the option?
Yeah, through the chair, if you're happy for me to answer, Mark. I think the best thing for us to do is go away and price and understand what it's going to cost. Again, probably my point before was the solution that we're working to is not major upgrade of the estate, if that makes sense. We're trying to do what we can with the existing configuration. James and his teams there, we are aware of some concepts that we may be able to achieve here. That's why I think it's important for us to go away, see what the minimum is we need to do to get this to be double, and it might be that majority of the estate goes to one way and the B doubles can go through there, so they're not crossing the road. If there's an increase in funding, to probably answer your question, Chair, is it'll be a decision for council, which would be a capital decision. But again, I think probably from our point of view, what I'm probably saying to council is our first solution is to try and, we've got a budget there to work to. Okay, what can we do? And try and minimise costs here, so we're not doing mass upgrades through the estate, if that makes sense. So, and again, I think there's an opportunity for us to go away and look at if there's been any contributions made to the estate and where they sit. Again, if it was developed by the council, there may not have been any at that time. But yeah, if there's, I think we price and we'll come back and say, yep, this is what it looks like, and then we can have a discussion around what some of the options might be for you, if that's okay.
So a quick yes or no answer.
Yes.
Do we have an option of moving it from LRCI funding to Works for Queensland funding if we need more? A simple yes or no.
Not simple. So there would be a funding discussion. Not simple. Yeah.
Yeah, point taken, CEO, but it is an option. Is that? Yeah, yeah. No,
Just
far
one,
from simple. But
just
yeah.
one comment for the chair though. Part of our original scope for that project was we were looking at the left-hand turn on the existing intersection anyway. So, so yeah, I'm confident the guys will find a solution and come back with a reasonable considerations for council without being over the top, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, any more questions on that before we go to Councillor Potter?
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Look, a comment was made earlier. I'm not too sure whether, I think Councillor Shoemaker made it with regards to the sale of land that we've had in that area. And if part of that report, could it be brought back whether that, because I do believe that the money we've made from the sale of land in that area should be probably put back into those roads.
I might just, yeah, we can have a look at that. My suspicion is that Wandoi Shire Council borrowed for the money and the sale of land actually funded the actual development. I would suspect that the development cost more than what the sale of the land. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if there's proceeds of sale of land available.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just, because I'm aware that we've sold some land recently there ourselves. So that's probably what I'm going for, the land we've sold in Parkside in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so that is part of, we do have that reserve, so land development, so there is a reserve put aside, so that's where that is would be in that. But yeah, going back to match off back to the original sales in early 2000s might be difficult. But yeah, we do have a reserve for any land sales that goes back, so that recent Parkside was part of that.
Okay, councillors, all good? So we have the committee recommendation in front of us. It's been moved by Councillor Duff, seconded by Councillor Henson, that the upgrades for B double access through the Wandoi Industrial Estate be considered for design and options be presented to a future standing committee for consideration. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, it's morning tea times. So I guess I will move that we break for morning tea at 10:35. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Henson, all in favour? Thank you. 11 o'clock, Mr. CEO? What time? 15 minutes? So let's try and be back at around about 10 to 11, 10:50. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we need to get back into the meeting. We need to have someone move that we... Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Second, Councillor Henson. All in favour? Thank you. The meeting restarts. We move on now to item 7.1. It's the Local Disaster Management Water and Wastewater Portfolio Report. And I'd now like to hand over to Councillor Froloff to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. First of all, Local Disaster Management Group update. The South Burnett and Western Downs Regional Councils, together with the Bunya Mountains Community Association, launched the Bunya Mountains Community Disaster Management Subplan on Saturday the 24th of April 2021. Following the accumulation of 12 months hard work, the morning session was to discuss the plan in detail, and the session was well attended by semi-permanent and permanent residents of the Bunyas. The feedback and discussion points were invaluable. Following the morning session, emergency services and the disaster management teams provided a fun day for permanent Bunya residents and also the visitors to the mountain for the long weekend. It was a great opportunity to discuss the new plan, explain the disaster dashboard, and promote disaster preparedness by educating the community on what they should have in their evacuation kits and evacuation plans. Free raffle tickets were given out and 5 evacuation kits were raffled at the end of the day. The children also enjoyed playing on the new Snakes and Ladders disaster preparedness game purchased with this year's Get Ready funding, and together with being able to sit in a fire truck or a police car. SES had the mascot Paddy the Platypus also there on the day. The event was extremely well attended and great feedback was achieved on the day. Special thanks to all the emergency services, QPS, SES, RBF and QFES auxiliaries for their attendance on the day also. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our council staff, Donna, Powan, Tash and GM Meehan for all the hard work, especially Donna, the guys that are pictured here with the fireys and that they go above and beyond for this disaster management group. And I'd like to really thank them muchly for all their hard work that they do. Now we'll go on to the water and wastewater portfolio. The following are current and planned works updated as of the 19th of the 4th, 2021. Capital works for 2021 and current water main replacements are as follows. Youngman Street North, trunk water main replacement. Reen Street, residential water main replacement. The KTP, Alfred Street water main replacement. Haley Street, Hodge to Scott Street, trunk residential water main replacement. Regional, replace 1,000 water meters. Class A recycled water facilities in Wandai, construction of the new Class A recycled water facilities at Wandai, and the SCADA and cyber security updates, replacing existing SCADA and rationalise to regionalise system, and Gordon Brook Dam, the spillway design. All towns still remain on level 3 water restrictions. Some of the key highlights are the dam levels as follows. Council continues to monitor water storage throughout the region. Current levels are Bunduma 26.9, BP 8.7, Gordon Brook Dam 50.56, and Boo Bear Dam 35%. And reactive works year to date. Council staff have attended 103 sewer requests this financial year, and council staff have also attended 835 water requests this financial year. And completed capital works for noting is the replacement of the reservoir roof in Scott Street and Wandai, the sewer relining, which has been relining the pipes and manholes in Wandai, Mergen and Nanango, and the replacement of the reservoir roof at Arana. And that is my portfolio I'd like to have accepted. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Froelich. Someone like to second that? Councillor Duff, any questions, councillors, in regards to the water? Councillor Shoemaker?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Froelich, for the report. Just a couple of questions from me. Just in relation to our water allocations and financial year consumption, just if we exceed, I can see we're running very fine on our Boyne River and Toorong pipeline allocation, which clearly, 16% remaining allocation. I guess we will make that through to the end of this financial year. But I wanted to ask the question, what happens if we exceed that allocation? I also wanted to ask the question, and certainly if more information can be brought back, that would be great. Just in relation to the Barker-Baramba scheme, there seems to be significant remaining allocation there, and I'm just thinking from a regional development point of view, following some of the inquiries we had, is there any opportunity for council to on-sell some of its remaining allocation from the Baramba Barker scheme? What is that something that we can potentially look at into the future? And just with the reactive work financial year to date, like we all know, water and sewage infrastructure, particularly around Kingaroy, is quite old. I just noticed, 448 water issues in Kingaroy alone this financial year to date. I just wanted to ask the question around, do we have the resources we need to meet that ongoing reactive demand? And is the budget that we have set for reactive work, realistically, are we tracking okay in that sense? And in terms of reactive work, is that, I'm mindful only 12 months in the job, so, are these figures sort of increasing or decreasing on previous years? Just appreciate some update there, because certainly I can see, council staff have attended 103 sewer requests this financial year and 835 water requests this financial year. So they're significant. Considering there's only 365 days in the year, that's pretty significant numbers. So appreciate those and happy to rephrase them if need be.
No, thank you, Councillor. I might let Tim answer all of those if that's okay. So just your first one was just in if we exceed allocation on the Tarong one, and also with the surplus allocation on the Barker.
Yep, through you, Deputy Mayor. On the Benooma pipeline, we look at this time. We are tracking that we're going to be just over about 4%, but that's significantly reduced to what we were. So that's around 40 meg or something like that. So it depends on where our allocations land in the other zones. We may just have to purchase some additional water, but we're hoping that the trend is coming back down, and given that we were just having some significant rain here just between Kingaroy and Nananga, hopefully just the ongoing little bits of rain will keep our consumption down. So that's the goal. There is some movement. If we've gone over our total allocation, then we can get a fine, or we need to purchase additional water to balance that up. So we'll probably know about a closer story next month, and we've been tracking that since Christmas just to try and see if that's coming back down, which it is at the moment. It is trending down, which goes without saying. Generally, in wintertime, we do track less. With regards to the BP scheme, I would have to do a bit more research on that. A lot of our allocation in the BP scheme is basically the traditional ordering council allocations out of the WIR. If you recall the presentation I did on the BP scheme, or both schemes, I think it was last information session. So it's actually not allocation out of the BP dam, it's out of the Baramba Creek or stream. And so I'd have to do a bit of research on that and find out actually whether we can on-sell that. I don't believe that we can. It's not an allocation from Sunwater, so we actually don't buy that, so we can't sell it. That's my understanding. Correct. Yeah. So we the traditional the ordering councils were the high numbers. So that's those ones that we actually do the consumption. The first 1,000, bit over 1,000 meg, we actually don't pay consumption rates for, and that's why last financial year and this financial year we actually haven't had a consumption figure or consumption figure charge for Wondai and Mergham, because we actually haven't triggered those traditional old ordering councils. And if you recall, the two schemes run vastly different. Benooma scheme runs on an allocation plus a charge of per megalitre consumption, simply because it's that's the way Sunwater set up the commercial business. On the BP scheme, they wanted us to have allocation out of the BP scheme, but knowing full well that we wouldn't actually use our allocation out of the ordering council, so that they just have a different charging regime. Yep. What was? Oh, yes. With regards to reactive maintenance, we those figures are generally sitting about normal. It's nothing extraordinary. Staffing wise, we are struggling a little bit at the moment. We are staff down and staff hurt. But generally speaking, we've probably got the balance as fine an edge as we can. We certainly wouldn't want to be reducing staff. But what we should see in the next few years is, because we've had an extensive network replacement program for water mains, sewer relining, those sort of things will actually end up yielding a result of less breakages and blockages in the sewer system as well. Correspondingly, that reduces our call-outs.
Yeah, very important work, as you say, you know, large investment upfront, but over time will reduce those costs. So, no, it's good to hear. Certainly appreciate what the fellas do. If you can, Tim, you and your team bring back some information about that traditional scheme, just, you know, noting that there's significant allocation left there remaining, and just the constant conversations that we as a region are having around water, and particularly being an inhibitor to regional growth. Just keen to understand if there is any opportunity at all to review any of those existing, as you say, they're quite historic arrangements, to see if there is any capacity, and more importantly, to see if council can potentially raise some revenue from that allocation as well that maybe we haven't extracted before. So all very mindful, the answer could be no, but I'd rather see us do some work to understand than not no either way. So it's my thinking.
Yeah, if council was happy in Tim's report next month, we'd probably just bring back a summary of those schemes, you know, try to make them in a one-pager if that makes sense. And then, yeah, we can give some information there, and obviously that can flow into the water study conversations as well, councillor. Yeah.
Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just on the Class A recycled water at Wandai, I noticed that it's going to be commissioned in April. Just wondering how we're travelling with regards to the community groups who will be using that Class A water. I know there was you know, like differing views on from the different clubs and concerns about costs and all sorts of things. I'm just wondering, has that been resolved? Are they all happy, all on board? Just wondering where that's at.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, at this stage, the update on one we're having difficulty with the electricals installs at the moment. They're significantly delaying us. But I've been assured as of yesterday that it will be completed shortly. So that's good. That's been holding up the commissioning. So regarding the, we've had several contracts signed up. That was way back when we first started this. So we haven't actually gone and spoken again since that meeting that we had in Wandai with yourself and Councillor Finch back September, I think it was last year, simply because until we actually commence the commissioning, then we'll go and see the sports club so we can assist with the flushing of their mains on their sprinkler systems, be the golf club and the football, because they had historic sand issues in the systems there. So once we get the commissioning going, ensure the system's working, then we'll go and see each of those clubs and work through the issues that they've got there. And we've given an undertaking that we will assist to get those systems flushed out of the sand that's residual in there from apparently was a historical Class C issue. So yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you, Deputy Mayor, with regards to what Councillor Duff was saying and those water systems at the the Wandai Sporting Grounds. I just think it'd be nice if we could let them know now where we're up to, because they do need to know, because they do need to make preparations for future planning for all their clubs, monetary wise and everything. Because I do believe there's quite a bit of work to be done for some of these clubs with regards to their irrigation systems.
Yeah, so what we'll do is through the chair, we'll write to the clubs to give them an update on the project, and the ones that have got Class A, and the ones that don't. So there's a number of facilities that we're looking to expand. Obviously, working with Peter and his team, we might work with Peter to just give them an update on where the commissioning is and what the future. So we're talking about I think it's the soccer and the cricket that don't have irrigation systems. So we have no agreement with them. Just so to clear with council, we only have an agreement with the golf club and the football club, so which have existing irrigation systems in place. So we'll give them an update to say what that might look like. As far as extending the scheme, that'll be a discussion we can have with Peter, and maybe just look to re-engage in some of those conversations if we can. So we'll mark that up as an action for us to write those letters.
Any more further questions, councillors? If not, we have the recommendation in front of us that the committee recommends, moved by Councillor Froloff, second by Councillor Duff, that the Council of Froloff's Local Disaster Management Water and Wastewater Portfolio Report to Council be received for information. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 7.2, Clark and Swenson Development South East Kingaroy Water Infrastructure. Quick summary, a requirement for significant trunk water infrastructure in South East Kingaroy has been previously identified and recently reinforced by studies undertaken on councils managing the Infrastructure Pipeline Program, the MIP. While the timing for multiple infrastructure components required will be dictated, the relative priority of these and identified in the 10-year capital works program under development, key stakeholders have requested council consider prioritising components of the works for early delivery in the program. The matter was present to the March general meeting and left to lay on the table until a revised report could be brought back with costs and considerations of a fourth option. Our officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council that council 1, advise the developer that council unable to advance funding to commence these works due to other network priorities, and 2, advise the developer that they can build their own infrastructure to service their development only, and 3, consider options for staged delivery of components of the planned trunk water infrastructure for Kingaroy, including option 4 of this report in its 10-year capital works program. Do we have a mover? Councillor Froloff, seconder. Someone like to second that? Councillor Potter. Questions, discussions? Councillor Potter.
Yep. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm actually not in agreement with this, because this is not something we as council would be willing to do. We wouldn't be willing to spend, money on infrastructure that in a couple of years' time would become obsolete. So I'm really not agreeing to this. I think we should go straight for option 4, but, I really can't agree with this one.
Any other councillors' comments? Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Certainly, with both Manager Tim and Manager Jed in the room, sorry, not Manager Jed, but thank you, Jed, for being here. Could we perhaps have some commentary about this report? It's a rather in-depth report, and I'd really like to better understand option 4 that has been, clearly the work's been done here. So really, if we can just spend some time, Deputy Mayor, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, fine. Good point, councillor. I should have went to GMO May and GMO Meehan and Manager Lowe for some updated commentary around this. So I'll hand over to you two now for further commentation.
Yeah, through the chair. The purpose we brought Jed along today was to probably run council through the options so you can better understand of where they're at. So with that, I'll just sit back and let Jed and Tim probably just run council probably through all 4 options, if that's okay. We've got some maps there as well. I think it's probably there's a couple of things probably just the council to consider is, regardless of what we do here, we're not inhibiting the council, the development of the staging of the development. So I might get the guys just to talk through that as well. So with that, I'll hand to you guys to talk through. I think we'll just go through option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. And then if council's happy, we might just explain what the option means for the developer if they were to spend their own money. If that makes sense.
Yeah, good morning, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. Thanks very much, Aaron. I suppose I'll start then by recapping the previous presentation to you, so we can remember where we were up to. The options presented in to the March meeting of Council started with option 1, which was the developer proposed solution, which is the one conditioned in the development approval. So the RAL development conditioned interim works which could allow the development to commence on its own behalf. So that's option 1. Option 1 includes a pipeline connection to the existing system in Haley Street and a pump station for the purpose of providing the pressure requirements to meet the needs of that development in the interim. Obviously, that development will be built in stages. I think from memory it had about 10 stages. There was something like 220, 230 lots involved from memory. So there would be progressive connection of those lots as it went ahead. Clearly that was an approved option for the developer to follow and the one that was conditioned. The second option proposed was that council construct a component of the trunk works that are part of the infrastructure upgrades for Kingaroy. It might be worthwhile just pointing out that options 2, 3 and 4 all have components of the ultimate works. So they are built for the ultimate needs of that part of Kingaroy, not sized at all in relationship to the development. They're built to be used in the future, which is, that makes sense. So starting with option 2, that it involved constructing all of the pipe works without the reservoir. So build all the pipe work involved in that part of Kingaroy and put a pump on it to allow connections to be made to lots 2 and 3 for the purpose of the initial development of residential development there. I might go through each option's description and then talk about what our position is in relation to each. So that those works would involve about $5.4 million worth of work. It doesn't include a reservoir, but it does, without some sort of cross connection or something, it was proposed that it would have some sort of, connection to allow flow through the system. Option 3 was the same, but with the reservoir at the end. So in other words, building all of those connecting pipe works up to and including the reservoir at a cost of about $8.3 million. Unlike option 1, which was proposed by the developer with his application as an interim measure to meet the needs of the development, options 2 and 3 are components of the trunk work. They're built to connect to the entire network for the benefit of the network, and in order for them to do that, there are prior works in the network that need to be done. And you may have recalled earlier presentations to you, Deputy Mayor and Councillors, where we talked about the staged priorities for major water upgrades in Kingaroy, and I'm sure you're fairly familiar with those. If connection is made to these very large diameter trunk mains, physically that works, but they hold very large volumes of water for the purpose, their ultimate purpose. Connection of particularly a staged development to that means that the water doesn't flow through them at the rate it would in a reticulation network. So water age was identified in the first report as being one difficulty associated with these, and because the work in either 2 or 3 is out of sequence, for them to meet their ultimate trunk service, we haven't built all the preceding components. So there's $19 odd million worth of work to get to this point. It is at the eastern extremity of the work that we've got to do. We did then propose that a subset of this work could be a possibility. Now that proposal was made subsequent to the deputation made to you at the general meeting by the proponents for the development, and in order to look at the sorts of things that were proposed there. We're now at the point, I suppose, of the new information in this report, and that was to provide further detail around a potential 4th option. So the proponents for the development proposed that a component of that trunk work could be built from Hayley Street just as far as the nearest point of the development. That component of work is similar in its objective to option 1. Option 1 connects from Hayley Street to the development. This proposal also connects from Hayley Street to the development, but via Fisher Street, so a little bit further to the west. Both would need a purpose-sized pump station to supply the development because there's not sufficient head on Hayley Street alone to do that. So both have the same. The disadvantage using the trunk main is that it's very large and we have the water turnover issues. If a purpose-built main, which has a subsequent use as a reticulation main, so it's not wasted infrastructure, if it's built, it's sized for the development, so it doesn't add to the water age issues. The first 620 metres proposed would ultimately form part of the upgrade works, but subsequent to all of those preceding components. For example, we need trunk works back at Gordon Brook, we need Baroolan Reservoir, and we need upgrades right across the system, including Hayley Street Pump Station. So all of those things really need to be built in order as you go eastward. Otherwise, you've got a whole lot of capacity at the east you really can't utilise until you get there. And the capital price tag of doing that doesn't provide any benefit. Either way, there's a temporary pump station involved. So we looked then at what opportunity does option 4 give us. Now, option 4 is a component also of the ultimate works, but it's aiming to do 2 things. It's aiming to provide enough capacity to service the lot 2 and 3 development without a pump station, i.e. all works that are built are ultimately used in the trunk infrastructure required. And secondly, how can we go, what can we do to keep that water age back to reasonable level and maintain our water quality within the Australian Drinking Water Guidelines? The option that we've done to do that has been to make a cross connection between Somerset Street and Hayley Street with a second connection to the Swickers property to provide the turnover to keep the water age down. Now that project involves, as you can see on the screen, a gravity main all the way from Somerset Street up to Clark and Swenson, up to Clark and Swenson, and at that point allow a second connection to the industrial use up there. That provides us with the flow through the system. The cross connection back to Hayley Street allows this gravity system to meet the pressure requirements for firefighting within that development. So that's the advantage of it. The cross connection is what's required to do that. It just does it, by the way, not by a country mile, because this is elevated parcel of land, thus we're building a reservoir up in that area. But it does, in fact, just meet minimum requirements. So it would work. We weren't sure when the presentation was made to you at the March meeting. The comment was made, we will have to check hydraulically, does this work? The answer is yes. Does it control the water age issue? And the answer is yes. So there is a way to construct this with a cross connection between the two mains to do it. The issue, of course, is because its trunk works, it's expensive. So we're estimating $2.2 million. That would provide the gravity connection, but it again doesn't allow any further development in the area or meet the objectives of the overall infrastructure upgrade, because we rely on the earlier stages of infrastructure to do that. So it provides the infrastructure we need, part of the infrastructure we need, but it doesn't increase capacity in the system per se. So thus, the Deputy Mayor, the recommendation didn't really change, because the priority need for capital works is at the western side where the water is coming from, progressively developing eastward. However, it is an option to build this component at some stage as an identifiable stage, should you feel that there was need to, and when you're comparing your priorities in the capital works program. So thus it would appear most logical that the interim works which were identified in the approval for the developer are the most appropriate. He makes the small connection to Haley Street via the proposed way that he put in his development application. Yeah. So this connection comes off Haley Street, or an extension off Haley Street, as you can see. Because the land is elevated, it needs, the pressure needs a boost. The water will actually get up there, but there's not enough head on Haley Street because of the demands on the eastern side of Kingaroy. So to meet the service requirements of those two lots requires a pump. It also requires an extension of water main, but that water main will ultimately, while it's a rising main initially serving this development, it'll ultimately become part of Council's reticulation network. So the water main per se has an ongoing use. A temporary pump station is just for the interim period until Council's full development of its capital works program is done, and that might be 5 or 10 years depending on your timing. Yes, and it's a similar pump that you would have to put to come off the alternate solution. It also would be a pump there specifically to lift pressures. An option does not. That's the solution that the developer will propose with his application when he looked at what's the alternative if the trunk infrastructure is, the ultimate infrastructure is not in place, what could be done to service it initially? And it remains a reasonable solution. With the negative, I suppose, that from what I heard of the developer's presentation to Council, was that it involves a pump station which ultimately won't continue to be used. But it's a relatively small cost for that component by comparison to these other major trunk works.
Councillor Potter.
Yeah, look, I know you say that this trunk infrastructure will be included, but according to option 1, which is what the developer will have to do, that trunk infrastructure is not included in any of the other maps in options 2 to 4?
No.
So, but you're telling me that it's not going to be obsolete?
It'll be a councillor through you, Deputy Mayor, it'll be a reticulation main ultimately, because the requirements on that to service those two lots, ultimate development, is only a relatively normal, if I may call that, sized main, 100 to 150 diameter. So it will just become ultimately part of the reticulation network of Council. It'll be utilised for distributing water within whichever zone it lies in, as that develops in the future. So it's, yes, it's not at the size. We're talking about the infrastructure, the trunk infrastructure will carry 10 times the amount of water that a pipeline like that would carry. It's 3 times as big. So it's it has a use, but it will not have part of the trunk system use. It'll be part of the reticulation, councillor, if that makes any sense.
And that will assist in turn over that water in that subdivision for water age. So you've got an inlet and an outlet, basically a circulating system.
Okay.
Councillor Potter, your light's flashing, that's all.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Shoemaker?
Yeah, thank you for the additional information. I was just wondering through you, Deputy Mayor Jones, if perhaps GM Meehan can provide some just context around the original development. Particularly I wasn't here when that sort of come to council, so just like a little bit more information about what's actually been approved by council. It's the lots, I believe there's a couple of hundred lots there, 220, 230 lots.
Yeah, off the top of my head, yeah, there is a number of lots. It was approved with 2 subdivisions. There was a one to the north of this. The recent changes has been that the one going above it isn't going ahead. So they're looking at the solution just for this subdivision. But yeah, it was 200 odd lots. But yeah, not sure what.
So, Councillor Duff? Yep.
My question is has that conversation around the proposal here been had with the developer? Like the option, like 1, 2 and 3 that we're proposing as a recommendation, has that discussion been had with the developer?
Yeah, councillor, I've been dealing with his consultant engineer, who's the guy that made the proposal of an alternative to us. So yes, I've been in touch with him at each point, and in relation to the viability of option 4. So that consultant is aware that option 4 would work, and he is also aware what the cost of it is, but not, yes, that's been where I've contacted.
Thank you.
So, my question to you, Tim or Aaron, what would be the minimum spend that council would be up for if we were to do options 1, 2 or 3, firstly, in regards to putting that, and take that on notice, roughly, there's no 2.2 million and 8.3 and that sort of stuff. And my other question, part 2, would be, with our priorities, and it was mentioned with Jed there that on the western side, the major infrastructure upgrades that we need to do and complete on the western side to make that viable on the eastern side. I go back to the conversations that this council's had over a long period of time in regards to the water security and all that sort of stuff around Kingaroy, and the money that we're talking to do that and all that sort of stuff. So I guess firstly, any idea on the minimal cost for any one of those options for council to put trunk infrastructure in? And I guess then we have to, well, the way I see it is, what's our priority? Do we need to capitalise and secure what we've already got and maintain that before we expand? Or that's just some of the thoughts going around in my head there.
Thanks, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Option 1 is, the cost of option 1 is actually the developer's option. So that's only purely to service his lot only. So that was not something that we looked at. We're looking at the ultimate solution, which is for that whole area, which is options 2, 3 and 4. And the reason they look all similar, it was just different stages. Do we want a reservoir? Can we afford a reservoir? At this stage, I would say the answer is probably no. So that's why we ultimately got back down to level option 4. What can we do as a minimum and actually get a benefit for the overall network, service that development, but also maintain our current status with our THM levels. That is option 4. So in answer to that question, I would say that the minimum spend is 2.26 million in that respect. In the regards to the overall scheme, if you ask me what is the priority at this point in time, you'll recall we had that presentation, we had some 60 options, I think it is, but the first 19, the first priority of that is the Wooroolin Reservoir, because there's no sense expanding your network if you haven't got your source supply. And so the Wooroolin Reservoir is key priority. That, as along with the Gordon Brook off-stream storage for security rights, but for actually supply and demand in the system demand, it requires Wooroolin first. Does that answer your question, Councillor?
It does. They're very good answers, actually, and you made a very good point. It's you've got to have your infrastructure in place before you encourage growth. Yeah, we need the growth. We need people. We need developments and all that. But and this is only my opinion and my personal view, obviously. But in the conversations we've had leading up to budgets and everything else, and what's priority, and as we currently sit here with the unknown facts around Kingaroy's water supply and the dam levels and all that sort of stuff, and but no, thank you for those questions. Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Froloff?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would love to support this developer in getting this up, but yeah, as the team has said, that we've got priorities on the other side that we've got to fix before we even get down to that end. So, and I know that we want to have Kingaroy growing, and we need developers and that, but yeah, we do. I've been working with Tim with the amount of stuff that we've got to do on council, and I just can't see that we can afford to do this at the moment.
Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, thank you. No, it's a very bittersweet conversation we're having. I just wanted to ask some questions just in relation to a staged approach for this kind of spend. Noting that the developer is only going to start with a specific number of lots or a specific... So do we have to... what would the time frame be? Have they indicated how soon they would be looking to start this project, or what would the time frame for this kind of spend be? Because I'm mindful some developments around Kingaroy we've been waiting for many years. So if you spent all this money now, is the developer actually in a position to put shovels in the ground tomorrow is probably my question.
Yeah, through the chair, your question is very good, councillor. But my understanding is, and I'm happy to be corrected by either gents beside me, that the option the developer is proposing is option 1, which was to service the development based on the staging that they were going to do immediately. So, hence probably our recommendation is around building the infrastructure when it's required. If the developer was to cut up to 240 lots, then we would trigger a whole range of issues that we would need to do. I'd be correct in saying, Jeb, if we had 240 houses come online, we would need to obviously install additional infrastructure, reservoirs and that sort of stuff. Putting the stage approach is that it would remain in the 10-year program until such time as council either could afford to fund it, and B, was absolutely necessary to do the work so that you weren't inhibiting the development if it was to proceed. So that's the two. So just looking here, the network model that we have here, the first stage is 23 lots. That's why our suggestion at the moment and what the developer is proposed to meet the DA conditions is option one, and then council would undertake the works when it was A, could afford to fund it, and B, was necessary to fund right now. Because yes, you could fund the work, and I'm happy to be corrected by the GM over there. You could fund that work now, and the developer may not go ahead. It's up to them. So the discussions we've had directly with the developer is that they want an answer one way or the other, so they can make a decision around that. So yeah, I'm hopefully that answers your question, councillor. It's from our point of view is what remains on the 10-year program is that we know the project exists and we continue to fund it in a prioritised manner. That's our recommendation to council. Obviously, it's up to council how you actually want to proceed with those projects. Is there anything, sorry, that we've left out for you in that space?
No, I just processing. It's a lot of information, and certainly there's highlighter and scribble all over my report. I probably just had a question, just trying to understand that area, perhaps GM Ian, is that zoned? What's the zoning on that area there? Is that rural residential or residential zoning?
I believe there'd be residential there.
And so with residential, there's a requirement for both water and sewage, or just water?
Yeah, because I believe these blocks are only small, 800 square metre blocks, I think, 800,000 square metre.
Would you like us just to comment on the sewer for you at all, councillor?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so with that, I might hand to Tim because we had this no, you're right. We had this conversation last week. So in regards to how does the sewage work on the residential lots for this one? No, you're right.
Musical chairs here. Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, it is correct. It is a sewer development, so the conditions of the approval requires a sewer, and there is an agreement in place that the developers formed with a neighbouring landowner to allow them to access back to council's reticulated sewer network.
Councillor Duff, Councillor Henson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, look, isn't this a double-sided sword? It's, yeah, option 4. Can I just quickly, permanent service connection to Swickers facility, and it goes on for a couple of lines. Option 4 provides a gravity connection to the approved development site via the future gravity main, which is capable of meeting minimum pressure and flow requirements, manages water age issues, which is the bottom line with this, and we've talked about that over and over again. But in saying that, broadly improves the network operation by reducing the demand placed on Swickers facility on a single off-take point in Haley Street. That being the case, by eliminating that demand, or how much demand and how much issues has there been with that single take-off point to Swickers, and in installing a second take-off point with option 4 here, that's obviously a huge improvement to our water quality, because we're able to reticulate it or farm it off onto Swickers. That being said, in the process of development goes ahead, does that take-off point to Swickers then in time, would it have to be shut down? No, the new Clark Swenson's road one. No?
Yeah, councillor, through the Deputy Mayor, no, it's proposed to be a second permanent connection.
Yeah.
We were seeking an option which provided a broader benefit just than connection to initial stages. So what we tried to do was do only works which would ultimately form part of the final works, and it does. So it is a little difficult sometimes looking at plans, councillor, to quite understand, but there's a pipeline from Somerset Street straight up and connects to the back of Swickers, and there's a T off that which goes back down to Haley Street, and that's how it works, and they're connected together. So it takes the load off Haley Street, and that's how minimum fire pressures can be met by gravity up the top there.
Yep.
Only just, but that's how it actually works. So they're big mains, and they provide that that second connection. Ultimately, I think council's very well aware that Swickers would like increased volumes and increased flow rates. Of course, we can't get it there because the upgrades required on the western side coming all the way across to this point need to precede it. But
that alludes to my next question. In the event of Swickers wanting to, and we know that there's talk about and wanting to expand the Swickers facility, obviously the single supply from Haley Street wouldn't be enough for Swickers in the event of expansion. So with the addition of the one on Clark Swenson's Road, that would certainly facilitate in future some expansion or help in the event of Swickers expanding.
Yes, but, sorry. Yeah, so what ultimately happens in addition to option 4, we build that reservoir up there that's showing up on option 1, I think it is, 2, option 2. So that actually gives us the, so option 4 is basically try and see what we could do without the reservoir because we're trying to reduce costs. But ultimately, we've got to come up with the option 3 layout, which then that connection back to Swickers gets the flow and pressure from that reservoir. That's the ultimate goal.
As we stand here in chambers, I'd just like the public to know that we're struggling to hear one another with the rain on the roof at the moment outside. So wouldn't that be lovely if that stayed up for some 24 hours and run some water into our storages and facilities? That would solve a lot of problems. And yes, we want development, as Councillor Shoemaker has alluded to. The Warrulan and the Gordon Brook Dam, our water issues are certainly major ones. So, yeah, very curly one, isn't it?
Councillor Froloff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you, Deputy Mayor, can I ask GM O'May, when was this development approved through council? What year was this done?
Oh, the original approval goes back to the Kingaroy Shire days, but most recently, it come back, I think probably 12 months ago or something. With the change of they needed to bring new reports together. As we said, they separated it out from the other development. They were relying on infrastructure from both this and the corresponding development. But yeah, it's been sort of a number of years it's been on there, but that's why it's come back now most recently to progress with the new infrastructure plans.
Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have to support the officer's recommendation. I know it's a tough call because we would, if we had a lot of extra resources, but we have a very, very tight budget. So I think we have no option but to go with the recommendation and then further down the track work with the developer to do with option 4. But I don't think that we can afford to go straight into option 4 as Councillor Potter has suggested.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just had another question. Certainly in option 4, page 63, and I've picked it up a couple of times, we've got the statement work in collaboration with the developer, and I guess I just wanted to define what that actually means. Does that mean, sitting down with the developer and actually having the honest conversation about what council could potentially afford in terms of this, or is it, how does that negotiation actually work? Is probably my question.
Deputy Mayor, Councillor, I might address the easy bit, which is the technical bit. We require easement to get through. We also require a connection point to those trunk works at a location that meets the needs and the requirements of that development. Thus, I've been in contact with the developer's consultant. So we would need to know at what location, how many lots, what configuration, what alignment, and that sort of thing. So we really need the cooperation and the collaboration with the developer to do those components. I point out that we have also had very preliminary contact with both other the other two likely landowners that are involved, but they're two major landowners as well, and talked about exactly the same thing. What benefit does the trunk works ultimately have to their landownings and their operations, and indeed what negative impacts will a pipeline route and a reservoir have? So that's the component that I spoke to. You alluded in relationship to the, you know, the actual delivery part. I might have to pass to my colleague to my right.
Yeah, through the chair. So the way we would take this forward is obviously, depending on what option council recommended, we would need to go away and do real detailed design too, because of what you commit to. Jed brings a couple of issues there that we would need to work with the developer around. If a proposed solution was there, the developer would need to make that work on their land. Otherwise, we would have to come back to council. In regards to sitting opposite the developer, we have sat opposite the developer in discussions, and basically the advice that we're in that space was very much what we give here today. Jed's been dealing with his consultant engineer, but for us, it's always been a money decision. It's the fact. What we wanted to do was come up with options that support the trunk infrastructure upgrades required for Kingaroy. Noting full well that there's a large pipeline of considerations for council to make and its priorities here. And it's a lot of money. It's not just this development in this infrastructure. It's, you know, a reservoir and you know, treatment plants and all that sort of stuff that goes in behind some of the things that we need to do. The developer has offered a solution which is in line to get the development up and running on their first stage. The developer's quite entitled to do that. And that's why we're recommending it. We're actually recommending the developer proceed with their options so that we don't inhibit their development. Our recommendation to council, given all that you've got going on, is that you build it at a time when you can afford it and it becomes your priority, and also when you need to. When you physically can see it on the ground that you've got, you know, X amount of lots that you require to do this work. Obviously, the trunk infrastructure triggers there have obviously got, you know, a large producer like Swickers. We've got WaterAge. So it's, and we have said to the developer point blank, it's a financial issue. Council, our recommendation to council will be to spend the money when you need to spend the money. So, but ultimately, it's up to council. It's just, that's where we come from in that space. We haven't tried to be tricky with the developer. We've been quite up front in that space.
Councillor Potter, one last question.
Just curious, with regards to, through you, Deputy Mayor, the infrastructure, the developer, you've got the developer to put in under option 1. How many houses, like the size of that infrastructure, will that do just those 23, or will it do more, will allow him to add to his development down the track before we do our option 4?
Yeah, my through the chair, my colleague to the right has just informed me that we'll do the entire development for the developer. So, so obviously it would be an extension of the retic mains, Jed, as the subdivision expanded, which is 229 lots is what we've got there. So that what the developer is proposing would service the development to do that.
Okay, so I guess in summing up, I tend to agree with the Councillor Duff and Potter that said earlier, this is just a recommendation to our general council meeting, so we can have another discussion. There's opportunities to have further conversation and get more information if need be. So the officer's recommendation that we're dealing with here at the moment is that the committee recommend to council that council 1 advise the developer that council unable to advance funding to commence these works due to to other network priorities, and 2 advise the developer that they can build their own infrastructure to service their development only, and 3 consider options for staged delivery of components of the planned trunk water infrastructure for Kingaroy, including option 4 of this report in its 10-year capital works program. So I guess just quickly, is anyone got any further questions before we take a vote? It's just recommending to the general meeting where we do discuss it, have an opportunity. So if there's no further questions, that recommendation was moved by Councillor Froloff, seconded by Councillor Potter. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. All right, last item is questions on notice and... Oh, sorry. Taking a leaf out of the mayor's book there, looking for an early finish. 7.3, application to supply water outside the declared supply area. So just a quick summary, application to supply water outside the declared water area of the Proston Rural Scheme was presented to the Infrastructure Standing Committee as item 7.3 at its meeting of 3rd of March 2021 and was laid on the table until May meeting to be considered with review of declared areas. Finalisation of analysis and costings is underway for the Proston Rural Scheme will assist Council in consideration of this application. The officer's recommendation that the matter lay on the table until the June Infrastructure Standing Committee with the review of the declared water areas. Can I have a mover? Councillor Froloff, seconder, Councillor Henson. Any commentary around that, GM or manager, before we ask for questions?
Yeah, I might just keep it brief if I may, Chair, and just give it to Tim. It was due to come back at this meeting, and obviously we're just doing a little bit more work, so we just want to make sure we get that right for Council.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, just apologies for that. Our network consultant just was time poor, and he was trying to get it done due for this standing committee, but unfortunately missed the deadline. He's hopefully have that finished by week's end. So we'll bring it back to the next standing committee so we can have a discussion about it and then go to the general meeting after that.
Thanks, Manager. Councillors happy with that?
I just wonder.
Councillor Duff.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Just want to know, I've had a request from some of the people who are interested in trying to get on the line to have a look at a map. Is there a map available of the area and the area that's outside the declared area and the actual declared area?
Yeah, through the Chair, what we'll do is the purpose of bringing the report back to the June is that we do the declared areas also. So from that, we can release a map to people. There's a current supply map there that's available that they can get from us. They can just contact us and we can do that. But the revised area or the declared area will be coming up to the June meeting at the same time. So from that, I'm not sure if we've got them on our webs. Yeah, so we'll just check if it's on our mapping system. Yeah, so it's whether it's on our website or not, I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yeah, thank you. I read through the report. So we're actually going to look at water allocation across the whole scheme. Have I got that right? Across the declared supply scheme. So there'll be a much more comprehensive report come back across the whole of the region, not just the Proston area.
Yeah, through the Chair, I'll just check with Tim, but I'm pretty sure it's the entire declared areas are coming back.
Yeah, so all the supply, water supply declared areas and sewer supplied areas are under review. We do that. Normally, it's a desktop exercise every year, but if there's significant changes, then we bring it back to council for adoption. As far as the for the network analysis, that is a detailed analysis of the Proston Rural Scheme, to not just in isolation of those two applicants, but the whole scheme. What potential there is to expand, what the ultimate costs are, and what the shortfalls in the systems are. So it's not just that particular thing. So that's why it took a little bit longer to do than what he anticipated.
Yeah, I think that's a great outcome. And just with that broad desktop review, is that sort of an opportunity? Is that when we can also look at water allocations and how they're divvied up across the scheme, or is that not really part of the work?
Yeah, through the Chair, yeah, that would be an additional work for there. I think it's a good opportunity for us to, we'll probably have Steve here and maybe Anthony as well, to come through, understand the declared areas and where that comes from, and then we can look at where you want to go from there. And understand there's obviously some historical stuff in those allocations, so.
Yeah, no, I just think it's probably timely to do some of that work, being that, we are running so fine on them. And also when it comes to if we've guaranteed opportunity to connect in certain areas, particularly with the work that's happened with the MIP and alike, I just think bigger picture, it's really important that we take that time carefully to unpack the work you've done with that desktop analysis.
Okay, no other questions, councillors? The committee's recommendation, moved by councillor Frolov, second by councillor Henson, that the matter lay on the table until the June Infrastructure Standing Committee with the review of the declared water areas. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. All right, 8.1, questions on notice. The following questions on notice was received from Councillor Kirsty Shoemaker at the ordinary meeting of Council on Wednesday the 24th of March 2021 and from Mayor Brett Otto at the Infrastructure Standing Committee on Wednesday the 3rd of March 2021. Questions. First one, where do the properties from Harris Road and Redmond Road seek water from? Manager Lowe, GM Meehan.
Yeah, through the chair, if council's happy, I think questions 1 and 2 have been covered off in the previous report. Just on page 71, Tim's put a map in there, and then question 2 was answered in the option 4 analysis of the previous report. If that's okay, Chair.
Thank you. And the last one, how many vehicles travel daily on the Maidenwell Bunya Mountains Road per day in comparison to other Lars roads? GM?
Yeah, so through your chair, we just put the Bunya Mountains is it's a Lars road. It carries between 100 and 160. The traffic count we have there, we saw much higher number, obviously, on weekends. The utilisation would obviously increase in the seasonal tourism on that road, but generally that's that data, I believe, I think we took, James, was in May. Yep, there is on that side. Was in May, so it was just before peak season started to come up into the Bunyas. So that gives you an idea.
Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just, I think it was in comparison with other Lars roads. So do you have some comparative figures of other Lars roads?
Yeah, we can put that through. We can send a table up for the. I thought, yeah, sorry, our misunderstanding. Our question was, we thought the question was compared to the other 2 roads that we discussed, being Boye and King Barkers last month. But we can.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just, I did read in the the TAC meeting minutes that the Kingaroy Barkers Creek Road has about 1,500 vehicles per day. Yeah. Item 3 on the agenda, page 31. Kingaroy Barkers Creek Road, Redmonds Road intersection speed reduction traffic review identified an average of 1,500 vehicles a day. Just thought I'd provide that for some context.
Yeah, we'll just, I think it's higher at that end. One of the things that we looked at is that it obviously drops off on King Barkers the further down as you go. So, but there was, the previous report had numbers for Boye and for King Barkers in the report. So, but yeah, happy to be guided by council.
Yeah, just my comments around the Maidenwell Bunya Mountains Road. This one's been on the agenda since I think 2001 or 2002 or something for this particular road to be bitumened and upgraded, and it's been taken through Webrock and all that sort of stuff, RRTG, and basically where the priority for this road has come through is the from the aspect of tourism and all that sort of stuff with the high usage. Yeah, 100, 160 vehicles, but as we all know, through the weekends and holiday periods and all that, the numbers really grow and so on. So that's just a little bit of background of why that road was put on there, and that road was on there before I got into council. So that's just a little bit of feedback. So that's the last question. There's nothing in confidential. I guess we've got to move. Oh, sorry, Kirsten.
No, you're
Councillor.
right.
Sorry.
Yeah, and certainly agree with Council's previous advocacy around the Bunya Mountains Maidenwell Road. You know, personally, I can see those numbers growing over time, particularly with the establishment of the Western Downs Regional Council's mountain bike trail and other things. Tourism on the Bunya Mountains really is growing. So I definitely think it's still a key priority of council. I do, however, think information and data like this does help inform future priorities. So Kingaroy Barkers Road, for me, to be honest, was a road that I know is a very important connector, but perhaps, you know, has been overlooked over time. I'm unsure. And I guess some of this data, I really appreciate the staff bringing it forward because it does tell us a story when it comes to what are the future roads we start advocating for. Like, it was great to see DTMR support for Bunny Mountains Mainmore Road, and that, you know, potentially that could be a project that they invest in into the future. So what are those next projects? And I think, you know, for me, some of those statistics really do paint a real picture. So, no, I certainly congratulate the work that's happened, and certainly just reminds us all how important the role council plays in advocacy really is. So thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Duff.
Sorry. Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Shoemaker is saying about being informed, and 1,500 vehicles a day is a lot of vehicles. And I also be interested to, and whether it can be brought back to a future infrastructure meeting, is the amount of traffic used on the Sherbrooke Road, because I believe, from what I've been told, that it's the most utilised road in the whole of our region. And I think it's 2,000 vehicles a day. So that kind of data does help to inform priority roads for council. So just interested. Can I just put that as a question to get a traffic count on the Sherbrooke Road?
Yeah, through chair, that's fine. We'll grab what data we've got there. If we don't have it, then we'll put the counter out and bring it back to a future meeting when we get the data. Just get a current one if that's okay.
Okay, my apologies, I jumped ahead there. The recommendation for this is that the responses to the questions raised be received and noted. Do I have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker, seconder, Councillor Froloff. All in favour? Unanimous. Okay, thank you. We now go to confidential, which we don't have any, so I would like to declare the Infrastructure Standing Committee for May closed at 12:16. Thank you all very much.